Welcome for those that are in attendance and those that are watching us live stream tonight's special budget workshop meeting. Go over some departments tonight, and as we begin to look at the proposed budget for 26-27. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Seeing none opposed. Commissioner Marley is on the phone with a work-related issue, so he'll be right out, which is okay because I need about 5 minutes to kind of touch base and clean up some things that were said last week, and still touch base on some of the audit. And every day continues. Every day that there seems to be some buzz, some question, some inquiry. But first off, I need to apologize to Commissioner Hamilton for allowing citizens last week to come and address her by name. And that's not the rules. That's not in the rules. And we don't allow citizens to address any board member, good or bad, positive or negative, in any way. So I didn't catch it. I allowed it. I didn't stop it. So that's my accountability. So, Commissioner Hamilton, I apologize
Apology accepted, Mayor.
for allowing that to happen.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's a lesson learned. Second one, I need to apologize to my good friend Charlie Gardner Jr. because there was some references made about the chamber. Some things that I was told that the chamber was evicted from the property. They were not. And I need to apologize to Charlie. And he says that at the minute marker, and I'll just read it, 3744, Mr. Moore stated the chamber was essentially evicted from their property. And then at the 50-minute mark, I repeated the same thing. I did, because I was told that. This is incorrect. I am the manager and part owner of the entity that leased 5546 Trade Street to the chamber from August 2010 to April 2026. In February of 2026, the chamber asked to terminate their lease early, and I agreed to let them do so without any fine or penalty. That's the truth. And that came from Charlie. And I know Charlie, I know his father, I know his family well. And if we put out some incorrect information, we're going to clean it up. So I apologize to Charlie for doing that. And I'm glad that on the record that we've got the right language of what happened. Now I'm going to continue on. Regarding the recent audit report, I'd like to provide some clarification about some comments that have been made. This current board, minus Commissioner Marley and myself, were not in place during the audit, which started in August 2025, by anonymous complaints on the state auditor's tip line. These complaints allege financial fraud, misappropriation, mismanagement, or misuse of public funds. I want to make that very clear because there's been a lot of discussion about members of this board and this audit report. There was only two on this board, myself, Commissioner Marley. The others were not on this board in August or any time during that audit proceedings. The report includes 23 allegations and substantiated 2. 3 others were partially substantiated, while 18 were unsubstantiated. that number begins to float around in different ways, and I don't know. So I'm just gonna clear it up tonight. In the cover letter from the state auditor's office, they encouraged the town to schedule an exit conference to discuss any questions, comments, suggestions from the confidential draft report that we received, which could not be publicly disclosed pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 147-64.6D. So I'm gonna touch on that because of transparency. It could not be disclosed because it would have violated a general statute. Now here comes the part that I've got to really walk back and clean up, because it's something I said here that was reported in City View that's incorrect. In the recent May 4th City View article, "How Did We Get Here?" Hope Mills mayor responds to critical audit of town finances. I need to address a comment that I said. And this comment is that I wanted to reach out for a meeting and was told no. That one hurt. That one still hurts. What I should have said, which is the truth, I wanted to meet with the NC State Auditor Dave and his staff, Dave Bullock, for a meeting. I wanted to, but I was told no by the town manager and by the former finance director. I was advised not to. Not once, but twice. That one is the one that hurts. At no time did the state auditor, Dave Bullock, and his staff say no to a meeting. I wanted to meet with them. What State Auditor Dave Bullock did say was for Hope Mills to fix these issues, it's going to take some time, effort, adherence to specific recommendations made by the State Auditor's office. I primarily wanted to know from the State Auditor how he got to the 1.2 figure. So I went back and researched and found the budget amendments. Mayor Pro Tem Hope Page had asked about these amendments in our last meeting. I have these amendments. One of them for $296,250. That was adopted the 5th day of July, 2024. That would be amendment number 2. Budget amendment number 33 in the amount of $190,000. That was adopted the 16th day of June, 2025. Budget amendment in the amount of $466,000. That was adopted the 16th day of June, 2025. And then the last one, which was the insurance and fuel, that totaled, I think, $81,000, was adopted the 4th day of August, 2025. So I just wanted to make sure that I got all the facts, all of them are cleared up, and that 4 members of this board were not sitting here during any one of those adoptions. But it goes a little bit further than that. It's because an explanation needed to be made about how those were adopted. And that's what should have been made clear, not only to the state auditor's office, but to the public. Because there was no malice, no misappropriation, none of it, no embezzlement. Every one of those budget amendments were carefully discussed by this board. Brian Marley knows, Commissioner Marley knows, and the decisions that we had to make. Now, going to that, the figures continue to move like 300-meter targets. Some people say it's 1.7, some people say 1.5, some people say 1.2. It is 1.2. But now I haven't added these up, so I'm hoping that that's what it is. that we agree to pay back in the general fund over a period of time. It's these. To date, the town has approved several town policy corrective measures: purchasing, travel, credit card, and fund balance policies. These revisions formalize long-standing practices that, while previously documented, had not been formally approved. We can thank the state auditor for that, because none of us on this board knew that. We do now. These updates improve compliance, strengthen current procedures, and improve operational clarity. And our new finance director, who I think is here tonight, Brittany McLaurin, is working on more policy changes and updates. She sent this board a long email about different types of policy changes that she wants to implement and have board approval. When I say we took this audit report seriously, I meant every word of it. This ain't gonna be way down the road. We're getting after it now. In our return back to the state auditor, we had a time period that we would complete a lot of these things within 90 days. A lot of these things have been done within 90 days. After all the policies have been updated and approved, the ones that's coming from our new finance director, that will probably come out over the next 2 or 3 months, I would like to invite the state auditor's office to schedule a relook of our policies to ensure adherence to specific recommendations made by the state auditor's office. Now, a lot of people are not going to say that. You want what? You want the auditor to come back? I do. This ain't a one and done. This is compliance. It's transparency. It is accountability. All three of those words are being twisted and beat and turned around on social media. Some of it correct. We're going to do it right. We've got the right team to do it right. Got a new finance director that's coming in here with a fresh set of eyes and a forward direction. So I'm going to stop here, and I appreciate and I apologize to the board for taking 5 minutes to clarify some things. But I'm hoping that once this is said, that we can move forward. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for that information. I just wanted to make sure that what I understood from the conversations that I have had, the budget amendments that you've read out, that those are approved by the board and that the manager and the previous finance director have no vote in making decisions on budget amendments, and that the board was completely aware of where the funds were being moved from to do these amendments. And then as far as the state auditor, I believe it was more so towards, we took the legal advice of our town attorney that would recommend if we needed to have the auditor come, it wouldn't be at this particular juncture necessary, as we've adhered to the corrective actions that was requested.
Any other comments from the board?
I have just one question.
Commissioner Hamilton?
So in order for the auditor to come back, is that your call?
Be the board's call. I'm just making a recommendation.
Okay, I just want to be clear
Be the
on.
board's call. Be the consensus of the board.
Okay. Are we going to vote on that?
Nope, we're not there yet.
Okay.
It's just when we get all the policies in place.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
And that's going to be a work in progress. I think Brittany will let us know when she's got them ready to go, because she'll be presenting them in the public, transparent, and we'll be voting on them.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay? All right, tonight the town holds its first budget workshops to discuss the proposed FY 2026-27 departmental budget request. The town budget workshops are critical because they transform the proposed budget from a technical document, which is the budget, into a reflection of community priorities, ensuring transparency and accountability in how public funds are going to be spent during the next operating year. The budget workshops allow residents to express which services they value the most, ensuring that the proposed budget reflects the community's needs. Not wants, needs. Involving residents from the start of the budget process, which is tonight, increases transparency and accountability, which strengthens the relationship between residents and town officials. At our May 18th meeting, which is the second budget workshop, the board will discuss and approve a public hearing, and that will be sometime in June. So we kick it off tonight with inspections, followed by governing body admin, finance, human resources, fire department, police department. And then on the 18th, we come back at 5:30, which is next Monday, and we start off with planning, code enforcement, stormwater, public works, and parks and recreation. So that's the lineup over the next 2 nights for the budget workshops. So, with that said, how would the board like to proceed? Just kind of get some advice. How would the board like to proceed?
Let's kick it out and let's start moving.
Okay. All right.
Mayor and board, before we get started, going back to the audit report, there was a mention of an email from last year that provided recommendations from the outgoing finance director with this current budget. I would like to read into the record the recommendation of the outgoing finance director that was sent to the board prior to tonight. With that said, for the record, this is being presented to the board prior to the beginning of this budget cycle for the upcoming 26-27 year budget. And this is from our outgoing finance director, Drew Holland, sent on April 29th, 2026. Fiscal year budget is currently balanced in accordance with the town council's directive to avoid a tax increase. While this approach meets the immediate goal, it continues a pattern in which the operational budget is underfunded year after year. This practice forces us to prioritize short-term recognition over long-term stability, ultimately compromising the town's future needs. My professional opinion, I recommend the following adjustments. Implement a 6-cent tax increase to provide sustainable funding. Avoid $653,000 in ARPA funds for reoccurring expenses. Maintain street department salaries and benefits of $232,946 in the general fund, not using Power Bill fund and stormwater funds. Keep the original plan 2% COLA and 2% merit increases totaling $40,339. And begin replenishing the town's fund balance reserves by $300,000 as advised in the state audit report. These measures will strengthen our financial position, reduce reliance on one-time funding, and ensure we are responsibly planning for the town future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor, for reading that into the record. The only thing that I wish that Drew had done that before he left, when he presented the budget, but nonetheless, it's been read in the record tonight that that was his recommendations. Okay, so how do we want to do it? Would the board like to start off with each section?
You said you can do inspection first.
Inspections are first. So Kenny will, the department head will come up, and if there's any questions from the board, he will entertain those, or Chancellor can entertain those. Is that fair enough with the rules? Yep. Everybody good? All right, Kenny.
Good evening, Honorable Board. Tonight, pretty much, I have a small department that generates a lot of work in the town. So my budget's pretty much cut and dried and cut down to the bone. I know there was a question from Commissioner Hamilton about, I think it was you, ma'am, about the training and travel budget at $14,000. Let me just expound on that a little bit. All the inspectors, we're multi-trade here in the town of Hope Mills. It means we do all 4 trades: building, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical. We're one of the few jurisdictions within probably 3 counties that does this, are multi-trade inspectors. And to do that, it costs an average of about $1,300 to $1,500 per certification, per inspector. That's the training, that's the classes, that's the testing, the per diem, the hotels, and all that stuff. So right now, I have 2 inspectors that are trying to get more certifications. By doing that, they can expect more buildings and structures in the town limits. They're not limited to certain type inspections. And so they're trying to get their more certifications, and it's an investment into the town to invest in employees to do that, especially these state mandated certifications. So between the 2 of them, there's like 6,000 apiece. So I'm at 12,000. That leaves me $2,000 that we got to do Con Ed. That's a requirement for the certifications we do have. We have to do a Con Ed on every certification we have every year to state. That's mandated. So the training budget, really, in my opinion, should be around 17 to 18. But I realize what the situation is, and we got to give where we can. So it is at 14, and sometimes this past year I didn't spend all of it for the simple fact that we had a new hire and they weren't ready to go. But we had to buy new code books because it's a new code cycle, and that was almost $5,000–6,000 right there just in code books that we had to get every 6 years, and electrical we have to get every 3. So there's a lot of training that goes into it. I'll give you an example. For one of my inspectors to be a level 1 inspector, just one trade, between his OJT, his testing, and the courses he has to take or she has to take, they're right at 2,500 to 3,000 hours. That's just one certification. They got to get 4 at each level. So they got 4, 8, you got 12 certifications right there over the course of their career here at town. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so that's where the training budget, I mean, I've cut it down as far as I can get it. You know, so.
Thank you for explaining that. I was just wanting to find out what was mandatory. I know you guys are different in what you do.
Yeah, everything we do
All
is
of your-
mandated by the state.
Right.
So
That explains it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
that's on behalf of the town, you know, to take care, to make sure we stay in state compliance, you know. As far as there's a question about the phones, I think that's a shared allocation of phone lines. We have cell phones in our department, we have landlines and what have you, and I think, Chancellor, correct me, I think it's an allocation each department.
That's the typical allocation. If you look at the past year's budget and the previous year, that's typically the allocation. I will say what Kenny did say about travel and training. We did look at that department wide, and we cut it as much as we could. The only training we didn't cut are trainings that are mandated by certifications or mandated by their job descriptions. Places like departments like Kenny is a perfect example. They're mandated by the state to maintain their licenses. So any trainings and related to those type of activities, we could not actually cut. Everything else we did.
Yeah, I understand. There just wasn't a lot of explanation.
Yeah.
He explained it, and thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
But like I say, my budget is small compared to some departments, but I've cut it down as far as I can go. And there's no wants in here whatsoever. This is all a need. I'm not asking for any positions. I'm not asking for any new vehicles, none of that stuff. You know, so we can maintain what we need to do with the staff I have right now. I got good staff, and my premise with them is the highest and best use of staff at that point in time. So.
Okay.
So we're not stretched out, but it is a hat trick to get it done. So, but we're doing it. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if y'all like.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Good evening. On the fuel, is there like a fuel plan that the town uses for the vehicles? Or does each individual, like your fuel here for the year, you have 4,000 and it went up from, well, it's gradually increased naturally because fuel costs. But is there like a universal plan for fuel for the department and the maintenance of vehicles?
Well, yes, ma'am. On fuel card, we have WEX fuel cards, and that's townwide, I believe. That's a fuel program, and that each department, each vehicle has its own fuel card assigned to that vehicle, and it's through the same company. I think that way, that's more of a finance question, but I think what happens is it prevents the town from paying all these different taxes on it and what have you. But yes, ma'am, to answer your question. And what I do in my department, I was telling Commissioner Mitchell a while back, some days we have a ton of inspections. And then some days, like rainy days, we don't have a whole lot, you know, so what happens is, in my department, if we have 5 or 6 inspections, that day is all we have. We typically range more than that, 20 plus, but if we have only like 5 or 6 inspections, I have all the inspectors ride together in one vehicle. And it accomplishes a couple of things. We save fuel. I don't have 3 different vehicles going in 3 different directions. And the other thing is a training opportunity, because the 2 senior inspectors can help the younger inspector, and it's usually a training opportunity and to save fuel. And we've saved a lot of fuel because instead of just sending 3 cars out that don't need to be out at that time, you know. That's good. But, so we try to pinch pennies any way we can, you know, so. I hope I answered your question, ma'am.
Any other questions from the board?
Just pretty much a statement. I'm looking at your, budget, the amplification or the increase come mainly from your training and fuel. That actually makes up the bulk of your increase. That's what I've seen, which is all mission critical, mission essential.
Yes, sir. I decreased like postage, and then I decreased printing a little bit. But the training, I kept the same budget training that I had last year. And I think I cut fuel by $200, you know, from last year.
And at the rate of fuel, that's probably a very conservative number.
Yeah, we make it work, and I had a long-term vision on that. That's why when I first took the department, we had all these gas guzzling pickup trucks, and we didn't have to have them. I mean, it'd take a $100 bill to fill up when gas was $2 a gallon. You know, I can imagine now, but since I've got us down to mid-size SUVs and smaller vehicles, we're getting a whole lot better fuel economy. So where it was taking $70 to $100 to fill a vehicle up now, we got it down to 35%. Since we've gone up, we're about 50 now per vehicle. So, but hopefully that'll be temporary.
Okay, any other? Kenny, the only question I had, and I think Chancellor answered it, and you did too, I as an educator myself, I know the importance of education and training. And I just wanted to make sure that there's enough training, there's enough dollars in this line item that will meet the training requirements for your department.
Yes, sir, I can make it work this year. That's not a problem. I mean, I've got 2, and me and myself and Ray, the other inspector, we got all the certifications we have to get. We've got everyone you can have, but we have to maintain through Con Ed. Con Ed is a lot less expensive than the standard certificate. So I got 2 guys that are hungry and want to get more certifications, which is more of an asset. So I can make it work with this year, that budget. I can make it work.
Thanks, Kenny.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This is going to be a tight budget for all departments, because one of the goals for next year is the reduction of budget amendments. So, Kenny, I appreciate everything that you came up here. You were straightforward. If there's anything that needs to be discussed, this is the time to do it. So we don't get caught up where we have budget 29, I think, this year. That's one of our big goals, and we can eliminate budget amendments if we get this budget tight and right on the front end. Yeah. So, Kenny, I appreciate that. All right, next up, governing body, admin.
Thank you, Mayor. I did respond to the email with the question. I can just read this into the record if you want. But there were questions regarding the $45,000 line item under 10-410-1270. Typically, under governing body, that is typically utilized for IT services. This is another example of contracts that we have that we can't actually cut. And so we did a budget run from this current fiscal year, and the implementation of the strategic plan and the creation of the strategic plan along with IT services came out of this line item. And so that's typically what this is utilized for. If you look in your budget book, typically the budget for 25-26 is 45,000, and where the manager's recommended budget is the same.
Chancellor, I think some of the questions in the governing body piece, I think that was a good explanation on what those contract services are.
Yes.
You notice that, and I'll say this for all the departments, is that the board asked, and some of us individually asked, for an explanation of all the contracts in all the departments.
Yes.
That way that the board has an understanding of what contracts are in play, are they needed, which I'm sure they are, and it's full, transparent, and disclosure on exactly what primary services they provide. You know, which takes us down into the administration piece with the grant services of Will O'Brien.
Yes, so the two line items under admin is line item 41,500 and line item 1270, and then the 18,000 in line item 1230. That's professional services and contract services. And so typically, as it relates to Will O'Brien, a total of 60,000 was requested, which is the total amount of those combined, but we only actually budgeted for 30,000, and the remaining 30 will also be absorbed by admin services like IT as well, streamlining utilization, and so what we ultimately had to do is we were asking for 60,000 for Will O'Brien because we wanted 30,000 for reporting and another 30,000 for additional grants. And we had to make the tough decision that we're not going to be able to apply for additional grants with 30,000 in this next fiscal year. And we made the decision to keep the 30,000 that we have in there for the reporting for grants that we currently are seeking. And so that's one of the most crucial aspects of grants. We do have a lot of grants in the hopper right now. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the state has allocated us a credit for additional billable hours based on our success. So those two are what we're utilizing to pursue additional grants. But the 30,000 in this budget is specifically tied to the reporting that will be required for any grants that we are awarded. And so 30,000 would go towards Will O'Brien. The remaining amount would just be regular, typical expenditures tied to IT and things of that nature. We did have a context. If you look at the recommended budget, there was an amount tied to the boardroom upgrades, and that was cut as well.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Math is not my thing. Charts and graphs. Okay. So the top parts says governing body.
Yes.
Might sound like a weird question. Who's governing body? Us? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, don't nobody judge that question. So my don't judge me. Where it has board retreat, I'm just asking, do we need a board retreat?
That's up to y'all. I'll tell you, there are going to be several line items. If we don't need it, cut it. I think Commissioner Hamilton asked about the employee luncheon. I had a very heavy conversation with my finance director, who advised that may not be positive to do with the current climate. And so that's 4,500. That may need to be cut. If you look at the travel and training for administration, we typically had about 17,000, 14,000 last year. I cut my entire travel and training budget for the next fiscal year. So any training, any conferences I'm going to, I'm paying out of pocket. I left 4,000 in there because there are trainings that our clerks need for their certifications. And so that's where some of this comes in. We're trying to find additional ways to cut. If there's something like the board retreat, we cut it. We need to know and realize and understand that something you said, Mayor, about us living within our means. So if we do make some of these cuts, we have to understand, like, some of the buying the tables at prayer breakfasts and things of that nature. We may not be able to do that moving forward. So if you're asking about the board retreat, if that's something that the board wants to cut, then
I have another question. So since that's still under governing body, what about, so that board retreat, what about the department supplies? Is that for us?
yeah, basically, department supplies that you would actually need. Go ahead.
So, the unique thing about our departments, which actually may not be so unique, we work very closely together. So sometimes those departmental supply lines are used interchangeably between admin and governing body. So things that may come out of either line may just depend on the purpose. So for example, sometimes if we're hosting the retreat, I'm sorry, not retreat, like the legislative delegation dinners, things like that, like we'll just put that under departmental supplies for governing body because it's a use of funds by the governing body, but we don't have a specific line item just for like food items and things like that. So it just kind of depends on what the nature of it is as to where it goes under governing body or admin, but those we kind of use interchangeably.
Thank you.
Mayor?
So very well, that could be reviewed and cut, right?
It's at the pleasure of the board, yes.
Right, okay, and so then to go further down under administration, you have advertising, and then there is, and I think you explained a little bit about professional services, but there's like no breakdown of it. And then the contract services, there's no breakdown of that. And then you have department supplies there as well. And then there's also, what is non-capital equipment? 10-420-9,000.
Talking about the 63?
Because there was, because in the actual 2024-25, it was $848. And then the 2025-26 here, an estimate balance, 6/30/2026, it was zero. And now it's proposed and added back into the budget again. So what prompted it to come back since it wasn't used before?
I'll research that, but Drew did pull something from somewhere else and moved it into that account. As to why he did it under capital, non-capital outlay. I should have it in my notes somewhere in here before this budget is over. But the advertising, that's going to remain about $3,000 because all of the advertising for the actual hearings and things of that nature comes out of that. In terms of the 18.5 and the 41.5, I can read that email into the record in terms of that breakdown that I sent. It says the professional services line item 10-420-1230 and the contract services line item 10-420-1270 have historically both been utilized to pay for the Widow Bryan contract. While both line items have been used in prior years for this same purpose, moving forward, staff intends to streamline the accounting structure by placing all grant administrative related expenditures associated with Widow Bryan under professional services, as this more accurately reflects the nature of the contract. Additionally, contract services line item under administration has historically been utilized for IT-related services, internet services, and similar operational expenditures. And so what we're looking at is, and this is a conversation with our new finance director, we have to get out of the habit of pulling from professional and pulling from contract and pulling from professional for different or similar expenditures. So what you're going to start seeing is all of the things that really fall under professional services will be pushed under professional services. IT is not professional services, that's contract, but it's that process that we have to stop. And so that's what the breakdown was, to tell you where the 41.5 and the 18.5 was allocated, but to underscore that we're going to possibly start scrubbing these accounts to make sure that they're used in a more efficient manner moving forward.
Thank you. I got one more question. So we got contract services under governing body too. So what's that one for 45? Is that what is that one?
That's what she was talking about interchangeably moving, because you got contract services and professional services under both. And that's, and you do have some that actually are split among all the departments that are pulled into that as well. But what I'm saying is, moving forward, I do think you'll start seeing more of a streamlined where all of the professional services related contracts will be done under professional services. Same with contract services, because right now they're being pulled from both. Now the money is allocated, yes. So they actually talk about the Will O'Brien and the IT, that's coming out of the 60, but it's coming out of both accounts, and that's not really a sound practice moving forward.
Commissioner Mitchell?
From 6,001 to 6,008, the committees, it's $5,000 apiece per committee. I've served on several committees.
40,000.
Let's say 40,000. That's, yes, but it's $5,000 each.
That's correct.
And I can tell y'all, when I first started serving on committees, there was only about 4 committees in this town, just 4. Historical preservation, appearance, Parks and Recs, and the Veteran Affairs. But several years ago, actually when I was commissioner last time, if all committees somehow someone came through Parks and Recs, I should say, didn't come under, but it came through Parks and Recs. Parks and Recs control pretty much the whole dynamics. And we was only, matter of fact, at one time, I think the max we ever gave some was $1,200, maybe $2,000 at best. And now we're at $5,000 a committee. That's entirely too much to do what? I have not seen too many committees does enough in this town that required to spend that kind of money. So we need to relook at that. If I'm aware about it, they might get $2,000 apiece at best. And before they spend it, they need to do a presentation to this board so that we can make sure that the money is being spent properly. Because they kind of got that old military concept. You give me $5,000. If I don't spend it, I'm gonna lose it next year. Well, guess what? We gotta lace up our boots, blouse them, and we gotta tighten up our belt, because right now we are in a financial crunch. So my recommendation is we figure out how we want to deal with this, but I think $5,000 is too much per committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question about the contract services of Whit O'Brien. I was kind of under the impression that the League of Municipalities pays for Whit O'Brien. No?
No, that's not correct. Go ahead.
So the initial 30,000 that we utilized under Whit O'Brien was free. That was from the North Carolina League of Municipalities. Since then, we have requested that same funding from the board 3 times, but we have not exhausted the 30,000 each of those times. But that's how much was requested 3 times. Now, the league has invited us to another 30,000, which we are utilizing, but based on their scope of work that they approved and that we signed, that is for a specific project or venture. It can't be commingled with other funds. So we utilize Whit O'Brien for other things outside of that, because we didn't always know that we were getting that. That just kind of came across our desk. So that's what Whit O'Brien is utilized for. And so they will just be pursuing the things that we signed with the league under the 30,000. And then what we're still utilizing is the remainder of the last time that we requested the 30,000 from the board.
Okay, so professional services and contract services, that is not all combined in one line item, is it?
No.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I don't remember who explained advertising, but you also, never mind. Thank you.
I would like to go back to something that, add to the conversation, Commissioner Mitchell, indicated. The original request from the committee was $107,000. We did cut that about 60,000 down to 40,000. And so while I do understand that your position, we did make some pretty heavy cuts, and you're just talking about being a little bit more,
Frugal.
cutting them a little bit more, but I would like to at least point on the record that we did review a lot of the requests, and we just blanketed them down to all five. But if there is a desire to make further cuts, I know there have been conversation about maybe creating a typical pool of money in general, and then the committees will come to the board and ask for approval for the utilization of that. I'm not sure, but I wanted to add more context to the conversation that you had before. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
I have a question about
Okay.
the money being spent. Now, it's come to my attention that prior to what we've been doing, the committees, whenever they wanted to purchase something, had to come to the board for approval. I don't know if it never happened? Okay.
Typically, the committees come to the board during the fiscal year to get the approval of their allocation, and then they typically go through either the staff liaison or admin, which is our clerk, to actually conduct the expenditure or the use of the funds. And so that's where the utilization of the funds, the balance and things of that nature are maintained by staff, but the requests that are coming into the committees have to come through staff based on the amounts. And I will say too, there have been budget years where even 75% of the funds are still remaining in the accounts at the end of the fiscal year. So even though they're being about $5,000 allocated, we get at the end of a budget year and it's still about $4,000 in the committees because no activity had taken place to utilize all of those funds.
I agree, we don't need to get that far into it.
Yeah.
As long as the liaison approves that, and I think that's what we really need to look at, is that it doesn't get ordered until the liaison approves it. We've talked about that. I've talked about that with Ashley.
What we've done, go ahead.
The previous board did make an adjustment to the rules of procedure that expenditures over 500, needed
Town
at
manager
least-
approval.
Yeah, or at least a consensus with their board liaison as well. So that is new, but before that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, now it's my turn. Now I can share some things. So what I've heard so far in governing body is that maybe we need to take out the board retreat of 2000. Yes. When I came on as mayor, we were doing it out there at Camp Rockfish, and we stopped Camp Rockfish and went to the EOC. So, but then Drew said, you know, the funding was a little bit different between Rockfish. He said Rockfish was cheaper than the EOC. So if we have the board retreat, where are we going to have it at, and what funding are we going to look at? Either you going to leave the 2,000 or take it out?
I think what Drew was saying that the cost of the caterer at the EOC was what ballooned the payment up. We had a better deal at Camp Rockfish because for the rental, the food was included. I think we can probably do some research to see what that amount was. It was cheaper, but I think that's why, because when we left Camp Rockfish, you're paying for a direct caterer to provide the food. You didn't have to rent the room, but that's what ballooned the cost.
It was almost a wash between the two. So, I mean, we got to have something for the board retreat. It's an all-day event. No, we don't rent the EOC. We don't. We just pay for the caterer to bring the food in.
Take somebody from the committee.
That's what we had to do when we moved it back here, which was really convenient for all the departments and us. But we had to pay for breakfast and we had to pay for lunch. So that was a caterer that brought it in. If you go to Rockfish, food is included on the rental of the facility for the whole day. We could.
Mayor, may I?
Yep. Commissioner Hamilton?
That was my suggestion before, when we were meeting and decided where we were gonna go for the retreat. I'm used to a different system where you go to you have your breakfast, you go to the meeting, you break at lunchtime, you come back at a certain time, and that way you're not really paying for anything, if we're able to use the EOC, that is, to hold our meeting. So that way it's not incurring any cost at all. That's my point.
I'd say you're correct. If we keep it here on campus, we keep it either in the EOC or Parks and Rec. We break for lunch, everybody takes care of themselves. We then reconvene and finish it up.
We have enough in the area here that people can find something to eat, I think, without having it catered. It's very expensive.
So I'm hearing 2,000's coming out, okay? Consensus, I think. I'm still up on top of the governing body. Commissioner Mitchell has an excellent point here. We've got $40,000 now tied up in committees. Whereas it was years ago, we only had 4 committees. And the rest of them were ad hocs.
Yep, ad hoc.
Yeah, like the Lake Advisory, and we didn't spend anything. In fact, we paid our own way. So, I mean, that's $40,000, and the reason I'm saying this is because one of the paramounts here, when we get down into the administration piece, is how important is a grant writer to this town? When I came in 2 years ago, Chancellor will tell you, that was one of the first things he and I talked about was a grant writer, and that money that we have invested, the return on investment is way over $60,000. It's up to the consensus of this board, but this is a non-negotiable that we fund the entire amount for next year for the grant services. That if we have to cut somewhere to do it, Ashley, and tell me how much that's going to be.
All right, so this is the dilemma. You have to make sure that you're allocating for the matches. So one reason why we prioritize reporting over additional funding to pursue grants was for that reason. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I do think that was one of the toughest cuts I had to make because I see the value in the actual program. It's just difficult. One of the things I sent you guys from our finance director, the new finance director, is possibly exploring a new grants acceptance policy that ties the acceptance of a grant to a budget amendment so that we know that the match is actually funded. And so that's where I would make sure if we're going to pursue and put additional funding in there, I think we need to make sure we understand that if we're pursuing other grants, there may be there may be grants that we receive that we can report on, but will require us to actually budget for additional matching funds. That's just the thought process going into it.
So in this budget, we only have 30,000.
And that's for reporting. So we have.
Yeah, that's only for reporting.
This is for grants we're already received and grants we're pursuing. I think what the answer to the question you're asking is, do we have any new funding towards new grants in this budget? And the answer is no.
That's where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. It's up to the consensus of this board, but I'm here to tell you, this is the time that we make these tough decisions. If we say yes, then we'll still go through all the rest of the departments and see what we can, and maybe we can find the additional funding, but I'm not saying that it's inked in stone, but
We can, I believe, if we just go and make some modification to those committees, because I'm telling you, I just don't see the validity of continuing to pour in $5,000 per committee unless they can show us justifiable how the money's been spent.
all right. So is the consensus of the board to fully fund the grant program
Question
for next year?
Here's my question, how we gonna pay for it?
Well,
That's the question. Until we can show how we're gonna pay for it, I can't vote on anything that I can't show the money. You gotta show me the money.
All right,
And I'm telling you now, I'm looking at the money of that $40,000 in those committees.
well, then
Mayor,
talk about it. Commissioner Marley?
I think we need to hold off on that till we get through the whole budget and see where we're at the end. I mean, making a decision like that, we're just on the second department right now. And, I think it's too early to say, while I understand the need for it, and I think that something like that would be beneficial to bring in, you know, essentially free money to the town, that we don't have to use, you know, tax dollars to fund projects or to do things we need to do. But I think we need to hold off on making a decision like that till we get all the way through every department and see what we've cut and come back to it.
Commissioner Marley, I agree with you. I was just looking for the board and for the appetite of the board. That's all I was looking for.
Placeholder.
No final decisions. It was just the appetite of the board to continue funding the grant writing program. That's all I was looking for.
I like that suggestion. So right now, it's a placeholder for Widow Bryan. If we just cut 2,500 for the retreat, we may actually get the 30 through cuts that we make from the rest of the departments. But if there's another placeholder, I do understand there's some additional things that the board desires. I do like that practice. We put things to the side that we want to save and see how we're going to save it and to identify the funding sources through the rest of the department's budget request.
All right. Is that it for governing body and administration?
So we're gonna leave the 5,000 in there for the committee?
Wait a minute, I got two at one time. What, Commissioner Mitchell?
So we're not gonna do anything with the 5,000 for the committees, just leave it like it is right now?
Well, that's the consensus of the board. Do you want to leave it the way it is until, like Commissioner Marley says, until we get to the end?
That'll work
We
for
can
me.
leave it like it is until we get to the end
That'll work for me.
and just do a placeholder on plus and minuses.
You can do that.
I mean, I know that we're taking out the board of retreat, so that's definitely,
Yes, yeah,
yeah, so that's coming out, but everything else is on a placeholder.
sounds good.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No, I was gonna ask the same question, so there's another one that I think is a placeholder as well.
Good.
The department supplies under governing body.
Department supplies under, let me see,
Which is second governing body or the first? Sit down, supply.
we're looking at 5,400
5,400 and then
Yes.
16.
in line item 65, okay.
Yes.
And what would you like done there?
I'm still a little uncertain as to that total amount. I mean, I would recommend it be dropped to 3,000 instead of 5,400.
Mayor Pro Tem, I will say that line item is typically clothes and food.
Clothes.
Clothes, like for clothing for you guys, or if you want us to possibly provide food for a work session, things of that nature. So if you're talking about shaving something down, I think that I wanted to at least let you know that that's what was in that account typically.
I think I mean, I feel like Hope, can't speak, sorry. Can't speak for everyone else, but I feel like we could shave that down.
No, I agree. I was just basically making sure you understood what we were shaving. It is an area that you probably could make some
To a
cuts.
zero. I mean,
This week.
placeholder for now, but
Yeah.
I would
We'll revisit.
definitely look to that dropping since it's for clothes and, food. But we'll bookmark that for now.
All right, West Street.
All right. Anything else before we move on to finance? Ashley?
I'm sorry, just one other thing. We also put in departmental supplies are like the tables and such. So, like when you go to like the prayer breakfast, things like that, power breakfast,
I think the point is that's gonna get
that kind of stuff comes out of departmental supplies.
Is that where that funding comes from for the community events?
yes.
That's the thing. I mean,
So that's kind of
Because there aren't separate line items for like specific kind of expenditures like food, like tables. like community events. So departmental supplies is kind of like a catch-all, if you get what I'm saying. So it just depends on what it's for.
So we can,
I mean, there are some community events
we can cut.
that we routinely have tables at.
I will say, if you look at the Greater Fayetteville Business Journal, we paid for a whole year's worth of those. So you'll have tables going into this next fiscal year up until December we've already covered. What we haven't covered is some of the prayer breakfasts and the police ball and things of that nature. And so what you're weighing is our presence at some of these events versus being more fiscally conservative in today's climate. That's what we're weighing. And I do commend the board for taking the approach of trying to make some tough decisions. That's what you're weighing out.
I understand tables now. Thank you. I understand tables. I was thinking actual tables. And I was like,
No.
I think, can we just not get tables from Park and Rec? Like, but I understand. So it's the tables for the events that we attend.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's value in our name being listed as a sponsor in certain events and things of that nature. We talked about the Greater Fayetteville Business Journal. We consider that to be an investment. And so that's why I said you're really weighing us taking a more fiscally conservative approach in this next fiscal year versus maybe a reduced presence. That's the ultimate question that we're asking ourselves.
Yep, that's a placeholder.
Mayor, I have a question.
Commissioner Hamilton, go ahead.
Under governing body, what is miscellaneous expense for $500?
Just historically, has been in there.
Okay, that's another placeholder, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure. No, they gonna go through every department.
Is it possible for some of these major items to be separate line items? I mean, it's really confusing because we don't know what each one means. I mean, I know it would increase the budget.
That's a finance question. I do think that would probably triple the size of the budget book because you have multiple things under contract services, things of that nature. And so I do think you're probably going to hear my finance director push back on the creation of additional.
It's just a
accounts.
question, I mean.
You can,
I think an explanation of contract services, like it's detailed, that's what you need.
Exactly,
You
because
know,
we
need
have no
contract,
idea
we need
what's
two.
there.
Need professional services and contract services.
Exactly.
Do you want me to touch on that?
go ahead.
I'd like to hear it.
Welcome, Brittany.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Are you up here for finance?
I am, so I'll
Hold on,
cover.
1
Okay.
minute. Are we done with governing body and admin?
For now, yes.
Is everybody good?
Yep.
All right, now,
So,
moving on.
good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Board. You said it's okay for me to chime in on that real
Sure,
quick?
sure.
I'm town manager. So, one of the things that, we have talked about cleaning up is the proper classification of expenditures. Just for me, you can't find, where it could be explained that you have an event table purchased under department supplies. That's not a department supply. So moving forward, we're gonna start to streamline what some of these account codes mean, and then to make sure that they're used properly. The second thing is, the Mayor Pro Tem, the question you asked about the difference between governing body and administration. I think right now there's a lot of, like they say, they're using them interchangeably, and we don't want to do that moving forward. If we were to get asked, how much did the governing body spend on XYZ, and then there are expenditures that may be administration, that may appear as if you guys may have expended more than what you really have. So moving forward, we're gonna make sure that the budgets are separated and that the line items actually include what they are. The brief difference between contracted services and professional services, if you think about it, professional services are just that, for people that, like, for your legal or your CPA firm, like technical licensed services. Contracted services are for things maybe, if we had a landscaping company, things that we've contracted out or paid another vendor to do on the behalf of the city, if that makes more sense a little bit. So the finance budget, we really didn't ask for anything. I'm also following the guide of Chancellor, Town Manager McLaughlin, coming in as the new finance director. I won't be attending any trainings or conferences, to keep at least the travel and training down. But we didn't have any major ask. We didn't put any wants. It's just strictly enough to keep the department operational.
Yes.
I don't think we received any questions on the finance budget, just in case.
That is correct. We didn't receive any questions tied to any finance budget requests.
You showing a shrinkage.
Just a little bit.
I have a question.
Go ahead. You got Mayor Pro Tem, then I'll come back.
So just to go back to what you said, oh, hi, good evening, by the way. To go back to what you said about the contract services and professional services, will that be a breakdown as well, throughout the budget request? Will we know? For like example, the professional services under finance is 28.5, and then the contract services is 66,400. And then what is the contract services at the bottom at 10,450, 1270 contract services for 102? Is that, what is that? Can you explain that for me?
Can you pause 1 second? I didn't bring my budget.
Oh,
Okay. So can you repeat the question for me now that I can see the numbers?
yes, ma'am. Under the, so just to piggyback off of what you said with the breakdown of the professional services and contract services, in finance, there's also professional services and contract services listed for 28,500, and then the contract services is 66,400. So it would be kind of helpful to know what those are. And then at the very bottom, it shows expenditures, tax listing, and collections, contract services for $102,000. Is that, what is that?
So Chancellor, do you know what the tax listing contract services are? I didn't look at that one. I can explain. The 28.5 is our annual auditor contract for our CPA. So that's what the professional services are. The contracted services, when I drilled into that one, it covered things like our IT, our software, like our Tyler and things like that. So it's like maintenance to different types of things. But I guess moving forward, I guess we need to maybe just list maybe some of the current contracts and what they are, which will help
This is the
satisfy.
telepathy part of the meeting, because Ashley and I have been whispering to each other, what if, moving forward in the budget book, if each department has a line item that says 45,000 for contract services, we just list a sheet that lists the breakdown of what those contracts are.
Yes.
And you do it per, and because I was just telling Ashley, we know what the contracts are because we're requesting them, whether they're maintenance contracts or things of that nature. I think it's just another sheet we add in there, like you're breaking down salaries. That way you guys have the breakdown of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what we need.
And so that goes back to the email I sent last week. What Brittany is doing is looking at, in addition to the budget, I think what she'll do right after this budget is adopted, she's going to look at how we operate. Not necessarily overhaul, but there's a couple conversations. She's like, hey, we might need to do something a little different and things of that nature. And we were having a conversation today about how you had governing body, professional services, contract, same thing in admin, but expenditures tied to the same thing coming out of both. That's not
Best practice.
best practices. So you'll start seeing, like when we emailed and saying you may be going to start getting either bi-monthly or quarterly financial presentations on the financials as opposed to just putting them in consent. So there are some things where going through this, she's analyzing where there are areas that we can move more efficiently. And I think that does yield transparency, because if you have a budget book that had all of the contract services highlighted out, and that's a public document, it reduces a lot of the questions that you may have and questions from the general public as well.
It's listed right here in the book under, budget request for increase to justification for request, it tells you everything under contract services, 10-440, 1270, contract services, current funding level, at the bottom, justification for request. Computers, charter, I guess
Charter
that's it.
one.
Communication, Civic Plus, Kavanaugh, Tyler Tech, Debt Book, and other. I don't know what the other is, but it kind of lists the justification for the request on the sheets behind the.
Commissioner Marley, I do think that some of it is in there, but if you have existing contracts and things that are reoccurring,
It does say other, so there is other for 7,500, so it's not listed, but but it does give some justification for the request in the back.
Brittany, oh, wait a minute, Commissioner Hamilton, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Mayor. I did see those requests, but it's hard to tell whether or not they're current requests or they things that we've had in the past. So we don't know, I don't know where we stand on those. Are they requesting new contracts? Are they old contracts? I can't tell.
Are we just speaking in general, or are we talking about the finance budget?
The finance, well, we're talking about, in general, I would say for the
Just in
contracts,
general?
yes.
I think it's a combination. Some of them may be new requests, but I think we may have not included any new contractual requests. I guess that we didn't need, but I guess it may be some that fell in.
because I
But a
think,
lot of these are the routine, reoccurring contracts that we need.
and I don't think that encompasses the entire line item of contract services. I think if you're changing a line item, you're increasing the budget for a line item and things of that nature, that'll be in the request.
That should be a
I do think it's
justification.
pretty easy to add one additional sheet, like you have to break down the salaries and benefits, where you can show line item that shows 75,000 in contract services. What is the breakdown of that funding request, so that it does actually answer? I think it'll cut down a lot of the questions that you made.
Well, like I said, it's hard to tell from just looking at the request, whether they're new, whether they're recurring or what they are. That was just one thing.
Is
but-
that request would you guys like that for this budget book, for what you're looking at now?
I'd
or
like it
next-
if it's possible.
I think if you just create a tab,
Yeah,
that's all you have to do. Brittany, just a tab.
Yes, sir.
That's all, and then roll them all up.
okay, that
It's
was,
just like we have position tab, just make a contract tab and put all the departments together.
okay.
It's just that simple.
The next thing I want to say is, your email that you put out, I appreciate that email. It's almost like a breath of fresh air, because that tells me you're actually listening to what's going on. And then you want to make changes. I really seriously appreciate that. I was very happy to see that, so thank you for that. I just have a question on the bank charges. Why is it $30,000 and what's it for?
So we get charged, like, there are service fees for the bank accounts that we have.
Okay.
So we get charged for some of our online access and some of our, just some of the features that we have to keep a lot of our the accounts that we do have current, whether if it's exchanging the information, security, all of that stuff. I literally just looked at that before I came up here to see, but it's all related to some type of banking fee.
Okay, all right. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Brittany,
Yes, sir.
that 102, that's under tax listings and collections. That's what that is. The 10-450-1270, contract services in the amount of $102,000.
I need to go look to see what
So
that is.
that's a contract with somebody, and I want to say maybe the county, don't know, for the collection of taxes. And I mean, so if you could research that.
I'll just verify. I can find out
Come
as
back
soon as
on
I
May
come.
18th with an update.
Yes.
That's one. Anybody else got anything for finance? Because I want to circle back to, the admin piece on that 6,300. There, if you look in your budget book, there is an item that's there for 6,300 that has one backup, it looks like some kind of switch, 2 backup ports. So I don't know what all that is. Then it stops, so I don't know what all that
We
is.
found it.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back and redress that 63. What is that?
So those were items requested specifically by our IT professional, Chris Slate. So those were different items. I'm not sure if if you guys were aware, we were having some network issues, this past year. Primarily, was it police or fire that the network was going up?
I think it was out of Central Square.
We were having network issues where the firewall would come down and then he would use like a stopgap, if you will, to get it back up. So these are essentials that he requested. And so the IT stuff comes through governing body and admin budget. So that's what that is.
Can we get more of a detailed explanation besides the abbreviated version that we have?
Okay.
All right. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Is it possible for IT to have their own budget? I mean, since there's an IT person?
Yeah.
I mean, then rather than putting it under,
So RT is currently a contracted, 'cause I guess is what we can say. It's not really a department. So we use those contracted services for IT.
Well, you could do legal, or you can leave that in administration, because that's pretty much where IT is couched, is in admin.
And also, you do have two things. You have a contract with them, but the 6,300 are additional things that he's requesting that are tied to his needs. So ultimately, he's not a staff person we budget for. We pay the contract based on what he charges us, but the additional amount or additional supplies that he said that he does need to be able to complete those operations.
I'd just like to see a detailed itemization, actually, of what he's requesting. I'm not saying he doesn't need it, it's just information for the board. Because we haven't had that before in a line item, so it's something new at 63. And right now, guys, as tight as this budget's gotta be, $3 is important.
It is. Mr. Mayor, can we just create a subcategory like we did with admin on the expenditures, say legal, we just create same category and say admin, IT, and they should put us in there.
That'll be up to you, Brittany.
I was gonna
Consider
suggest,
Commissioner Mitchell's request.
I don't mind actually adding line items to our chart of accounts is what we call it. If it will help to classify some of these expenditures better. So my suggestion would be to probably just add some type of IT related language to a line item where we will know that it's specifically IT.
Standalone.
Yes.
All right, anything else for Brittany? We good? All right,
Thank you.
it's time to dance with the human resources.
Number 4 is
Sharpen your pencils here. Sharpen them twice.
Hello. I mean, a lot of what's in the human resources budget is carryovers from last year, compliance and regulatory requirements. There's a few areas, but like you're gonna hear from the rest of the departments, there were no wants, included in the budget, so here for questions. Yes, sir.
10-425-1242 CDL program.
Yes. That was added last year. We do have CDL drivers, and they were not being we weren't properly maintaining that program, so we actually added a line item last year to separate that for the cost of that program, for meeting the DOT regulations.
Question though,
Yes.
CDL holder, and every job I applied for, I had to come with CDLs in hand.
Yes, no, that's not for getting their license. That's for maintaining the requirements as an employer. We have to do random drug testing, there's
okay.
things like that.
So that's
Yeah.
another one
Sorry
that
for the
needs-
clarification.
Yeah, that's one of the areas that need to be kind of expanded on.
Yeah.
Makes
That was
sense.
part of why we started to pull it out.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, thank you.
Good questions. Yeah. I have
Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor. I had already asked the question about the employment engagement line item in the amount of $7,500. And I got team building activities, employee appreciation initiatives, but it doesn't include expenditures for food and beverages.
correct.
So isn't that something that each department does instead of the HR taking control of that?
No, we centralize that here. That's a common practice.
So we try to do events, we try to coordinate with all the departments so that all the employees are getting the same experiences.
Okay, because normally, my train of thought is that each department head coordinates with their employees about team-building activities. HR probably doesn't know
Well, for example,
what
we
your-
went
what their
to,
schedule is, or when everybody's gonna be there in order to do those things for the employees. That's just kind of my train of thought, that it should be left up to the department heads.
well, we do group, where we cross departments. For example, we did a day at the ballpark, for at Segra Stadium. We took everyone to a baseball game. It's actually it's very good to intermingle the departments because we don't get to see each other on a day-to-day basis, and it really helps build community within our departments and make sure everyone kind of gets to know what everybody does, because we're one big, organization with a lot of silos. We don't want to force people apart. We want to bring them together. So that's my viewpoint, I guess.
Okay.
Team building.
I understand team building, but like I said, my train of thought is that, and I get it, that you want to bring people together, and if it works, then that's fine. I'm all for that, but that wasn't what I was thinking when I got that information from Chancellor. I'm just used to doing it a different way, but if that's what you need, then I guess that's what we'll have.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
For clarification purposes,
Yes, sir.
CDL program, and you said drug test, but then down here we got drug testing again, 2 locations. Now, is one for physical, is what, for CDL?
So the one, 1272, that is our pre-employment screenings and injuries. So if we have somebody who hurts themselves at work, they go to,
Right,
that's what
yes.
that's for. That's the ones under the CDO program are strictly the regulation ones, the ones that
Okay.
we were doing our random testing for and things like that.
Now, also now, because on the CDL program, is the background checks included in that with the CDL?
No, we don't have a separate, we have a separate line item for background checks, but our CDL drivers don't require backgrounds because they're not, I'm trying to think of the word,
Hazmat.
extra state or whatever, like we're staying, there's a different
in-state,
type of CDL, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Like when I worked at the electric company on Bragg, they had to do physicals every year. Ours are not the same, they're not the same type of CDL.
All right. All right, thank you.
Sure.
For Tim?
Thank you, Mayor. I have two papers. I'm confused. So, one on the front, the first two, there's a 10-425-1242 with $3,000, and then page 3 is 1-425-1242 CDL program, 3,500, and it says town has increased numbers of CDL drivers with notes on the side. So which one is the one that I should be looking at?
So 35 was my requested, but the 3,000 was the manager, so that would be the one you would go on.
So then I don't need to look at this one, I'll take that one out.
I'm guessing that's an extra page, yeah. I also noticed a few, at least on my copy, some of the categories were we had changed the names of some of them. For example, 1273 says P&A group on mine. I don't know if it says that on yours, but that's just our TPA fees. So that's our third-party administrators for like our FSA accounts, the health reimbursement accounts, the fees that they charge us every month.
I was gonna ask that.
That used to be P&A Group was the name of the company that did it, but instead of renaming it what the company is every time we change, it's just TPA. So it's just any third-party administrator, but they're typically health-related. So like our FSA, our HRA,
P&A group
things
is
like
there.
that.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
Yeah, but I don't.
Okay, I just wasn't sure because I know my copy didn't, and I didn't want to confuse anybody.
I didn't know what it was.
No, that other sheet was confusing.
Okay.
Let me ask this question. Can 12, 72, 73, 74, can all that be rolled up into contract services? Or does it have
They are
to
all-
be individual like it is?
Yeah, they're all contract services dash whatever they're, so, I mean, I don't know I don't know what the rationale between separating some of these were. I think, 72 and 74 could potentially be
Maybe a
combined.
Brittany question.
But the other ones we separated for tracking purposes, so that's important that they're pulled separately. But a couple, like I said, drug testing and backgrounds, a lot of them times they go hand in hand, so that might make sense.
We don't do our own drug testing, do we?
No, everything's contract. These are all contract services categories. Yeah.
And background services, okay. What do we look at when we're doing background checks? What are we looking for?
It's a 7-year, so it's a standard 7-year criminal background search. It checks the sex registry, it checks, like, if you've lived in a lot of different places, yours will be longer, because they'll check all the different counties based off your history, your aliases, things like that.
Okay, all right.
So 7 years.
All right.
I believe 7 years is the standard,
Mayor Pro
yeah.
Tem?
Is it a 50-state check?
I believe so, because it's every county you've ever worked, or every county you've ever lived in. So I'll pull, like, if somebody lived in Tennessee, it'll pull up Tennessee.
So it's the backgrounds is for all 50 states for where you live. So
It's all based on your address history, yes.
it's a national background.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Anything else? Everybody good? Commissioner Hamilton, you good?
Yeah, I just have one other question. Thank you, Mayor. I see you're requesting a computer monitor, webcam, USB hub, Office 2024, LaserJet printer, and phone. In the last budget, didn't,
I think that might be the request page.
It's the
Maybe
request
that's what
page,
she
right.
had, because it wasn't approved in the final budget.
okay,
Yeah.
that was my question, because I know at one point you had 9 computers you requested or something.
Oh, you have training laptops? Is that what you
Yes.
mean? That was last year. We had
Okay.
6 training laptops. Yeah, so when we do our orientations and we do training, not all of our employees have computers.
I understand that.
So that's why but that was last year, not this year.
Okay, that's why I was asking why you would want other computers when you have,
I didn't ask for more computers. I asked for a staff person.
it's a budget request,
Yeah, and that went with the staff person.
That might have been an office for the staff person, but
Okay.
that would have been it, yeah.
okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you,
like
that's
extra pages got mixed in there somewhere.
Yeah, that was my question when I saw that. Okay,
sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? We good? All right, thank you. Chief? Bring the hoses.
Fire department,
Bring the hoses.
you want a new truck.
Bring the boots. There you go. Yeah, oh, yeah, you gotta have them. Yeah. I don't know. Police chief's gonna have to up this, he's got, look at this, he's got a slideshow. I don't know, police chief's got a slideshow too.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if I need it, so.
Chief, let me ask you a question while you
Yes,
get
sir.
going. A lot of people have asked me about this golf course thing, tunnel the towers with Stony Point. This 5K thing that they're doing down there on May 23rd. Are you guys part of that in any kind of way?
I think the fire marshal is actually going to run in it.
Okay,
It weren't nothing we had to do.
okay. Yeah, 'cause I found out who the sponsor is, and I think it's Stony Point was one, that's the sponsor of it, to do that 5K run walk on May 23rd.
That I do not know.
Yeah.
If it is, that's new on me.
I kind of put it together when I went by his firehouse, and he's got it all over the front, there, and then they were out at Dirtbag L's, doing registration. It was like, really? Yeah. Just wanted to share it, Chief.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm open to any questions you got. I mean, I know there was
Give
a
him some-
couple.
Give him some fastballs.
A couple you had, and I think the manager responded back with an email today on those.
Well, definitely the one I had was the $100,000, as if it could be moved, because, it was approved in last year's budget. My question was, since it was already approved in last year's budget, could it be moved into next year's budget? I think Chancellor's got the answer.
Ultimately, there was talk about the $100,000 that would be allocated for property acquisition for a substation, whether it was absorbed within the tax rate or as a one-time request. It was not absorbed into the tax rate of the current fiscal year budget. Otherwise, it would have automatically reoccurred. And so it was put in last year's budget, balanced with ARPA funds to date, there has been $7,900 of it spent through surveys and appraisals. And so ultimately, the answer to the question is the remaining 92,100 will go back into the general fund, but we do have in this current budget balanced another request for 100,000 appropriated through actual ARPA. So you do have that money in there. I will note that since we've been in this meeting, Fire Chief and Deputy Fire Chief has made contact with the property owner who is willing to talk to the town about the purchase of the property.
Found him?
Yeah, about 20 minutes ago, I think he contacted me.
My question is the 97,000 gonna go into the general fund or ARPA? That was my main question. When you say it's gonna go back, so which account is it gonna go in?
I think it goes back to ARPA.
From my review, it appears to me that it would go back to its original source, which was the general fund. Is that okay?
We'd have to, I thought last year was appropriate out of ARPA as well. And so I would say it would go back to ARPA.
It'll go back to whatever its original funding source was.
What the original funding source is correct, but I think last year, or currently, it's ARPA, and it's coming out of ARPA again. And so it will go back into ARPA and be reallocated back out of ARPA.
Yeah, if memory serves me right, and you can research this, Brittany.
Yeah, I just gotta dig in and see how it was funded.
Yeah,
But if it was general fund, it would go back there, but if it was ARPA, it will just stay ARPA.
okay.
So the money is there. It is in the proposed budget that you have before you. So, and I think the thought process was the first allocation of 100 was primarily would be dedicated to property acquisition.
Yeah.
Once you acquire the property, the next fiscal year allocation would be towards design. And then once you get that done, we have to talk about construction.
Well, if contact has been made, like you guys are informing me, then we can discuss that in closed session on May 18th.
That is correct.
That's how we'll handle it.
That is correct.
Okay? All right.
I have a question.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Hi, Chief, how you doing today?
All right.
I just have a question, and this is kind of, I just want to make sure that you have enough, not that I'm trying to increase the budget or anything, but with the rising cost of fuel, I see it went from 26 to 28. And I know those fire trucks, I mean, just going around the block, you probably have to fill it up. So I don't know if that's, I don't want to you'd have to come back for a budget amendment later on in the year. That's why I'm asking. If that's going to be enough for your for all the vehicles that you have.
Well,
$4
that's
a
kind of a
gallon.
hard question to answer. There may be weeks that they don't run that much. You may have a big fire that they sit out there 2 or 3 hours running.
And I get that, you never know, but still, I mean, those things, it's not like my little SUV running down the road.
Right, well,
It's,
according to the sheet, the estimated, year-end balance for this year, they're looking at 2652. So,
as long as you're comfortable with it, I'm fine, but I just didn't want you'd have to come back later because you ran
Right.
out of money and you needed more, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm just curious, what is the capital outlay improvements? What is that?
That's the 100,000 for
that's
the
the 100,000 he was
That's the,
talking about.
yeah, that's the 100,000 appropriation.
What? Like, can you help my brain with the words? Like, what does it mean?
So the 100,000 we're talking about allocating for property acquisition, they put it in capital outlay improvements. Yeah. It's that finance language that they use all the time.
We just didn't
I don't-
put property acquisition there, but that's what we're discussing in closed session. Well, anything else? Everybody else good? Well, you know, I always bring up this one question. I brought it up in my email again. Chief has a frozen firefighter position It's been frozen for,
4 or 5 years probably.
I'm
Been that
counting.
long? Time flies when you have it.
7. I'm counting them. I'm gonna run out of fingers eventually. I'm hoping that we don't do that. 7 years, one shift has 10, the other ones have 11. For 7 years, this position has been frozen. 7 years. So my email, and all of you got the answer here somewhere. I thought it was really good. Because I asked, how much would it add to the budget to unfreeze it? Either 1 July or 1 January. And the answer from Chancellor was, regarding the current frozen position, the amount of general fund support required to unfreeze the position would be $67,131 effective July 1, and approximately $33,564 effective January 1, excluding any proposed COLA adjustments. My question here is, how long are we going to keep this position frozen? How long? Can we bookmark something this year when we get through the whole thing, like Commissioner Marley said, and maybe we can either fund it for the whole year or at least half the year? And I just say that, I'm just maybe a bookmark, but nonetheless, I'm gonna put an asterisk there, and maybe we can come back at the end of this budget and find some funding to unfreeze a position that's been frozen for 7 years.
If you go by NFPA standards, we have 11 on each shift, other than a shift. The town has a 3-engine need, according to DOI. Minimum staffing for a fire engine or a ladder truck, according to NFPA, is 4 personnel. If you're in a high-density area, it could be up to 5 or 6. So if we're required 2 engines and a ladder from our station on each fire we have in this town, minimum staffing, that would be 12 people. That ain't even counting if you got somebody out sick, off on vacation, away training somewhere. It doesn't cover any of that. 12 is bare minimum, so we're still below staffing. But that one position would be a great help to a shift. That would also cut down on some of the overtime stuff too, because if you got people out sick, I mean, you got people calling out and everything else.
Well, Chief, I appreciate that, because I was going to circle back and tag your overtime of 40,000. That's exactly where I was going to make the link, but I think Commissioner Marley has a comment, and I'll defer to him.
It's probably not the comment people want to hear, but I'm a services guy, so I understand. But not only has that position been frozen, we've frozen every department's position that they have asked for years now, because we don't want to raise taxes. Everybody wants a balanced budget. Everybody wants people. Everybody wants this stuff, but nobody wants to raise taxes. And until we look at that, in my opinion, there's no way we can sit here and complain about $2,000 on a budget retreat that we do once a year, but add $60-some thousand for one person in one department. I understand the need for it, and I'm sorry, Chief, but finance asked, or not finance, but HR asked for a person. We didn't even ask her nothing like this. Inspections got up here and said he'll make do, but he needs people, because we're building like crazy in this town. He's got to have more inspectors. They're a revenue source for the town. The inspections department's a revenue source for the town. Unfortunately, emergency services, fire and police, they make no revenue for this town. So I don't understand, I understand the need, but we sit up here and we tell the manager and the finance director to bring us a balanced budget with no tax increase. That's what they've done. But we can't start sitting up here and awarding positions to departments, just like the grant position stuff. I understand the need for that, and I'd love to get that free money in here so it helps out, but unless we start having a tough conversation about taxes in this town, we got underpaid employees right now. The employees that we do have right now are underpaid. We had a pay study that we funded a quarter of. We're behind on that. Right now, this budget, when we enter this budget, we're about $3 million in the hole on this budget. $3 million in the hole July 1, after July 30th, when we raise our hands to approve a budget. If we approve this budget right here, that is in front of me, we are $3 million in the hole automatically. So in my opinion, if we're going to say no tax increase, we're going to say no personnel, no positions across the board, point blank. Don't even come with us to it. I'm sorry as I can be, but if you want positions, and every one of these departments that we're going to talk to has requests in here for positions and have been for years, we got to start having that tax conversation. In my opinion, we at least need to raise the taxes at least 0.5% and do nothing but fund the rest of the pay study that we commissioned and approved to bring our employees now up to a minimum standard that they're behind. Or we're going to start losing what we do have to neighboring counties and neighboring municipalities. We're not even going to be able to keep the employees we got. So I know I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about services. The police chiefs wanting people, fire departments needing people, but we got streets, public utilities that's needing people, HR, inspections, you know, so what do we do? Code enforcement, yeah.
I would add to that too. I think I've been here 12 years. We've asked for a third code enforcement officer every single year. We had 12 requests for new positions last year's budget. We cut 11 from this year's budget. We kept the frozen position in fire, and we froze 5 in PD. I will tell you there were $2 million in requests for the department's needs. That was cut down to $125,000.
But we're not, the thing is, we're sitting up here and we're not telling the citizens that if we pass this budget, we're putting ourselves behind the 8 ball again. We're going to be in the situation we were. You know, nobody wants us to take no money out of the general fund. Lord forbid we balance a budget with no tax increase to the citizens, because they come in here and they say, no taxes, no tax. Look, everything's gone up. I don't want taxes no more than the next citizen does. But I sit up here and I can't sit up here and be quiet much longer, because we need to tell the people we're $3 million in the hole July 1st. We're starting out $3 million in the hole. We have got to raise taxes in this town. We should have done it years ago. I take the blame for that. We should have had incremental increases along the way, so it wouldn't be. We got a letter from the outgoing finance director, his recommendation. You know, with this budget, we're not even putting money back into the reserves
That we took out.
I mean, we're not even doing that. So you know, the citizens want to come at us about an audit and a budget, and they don't want to increase taxes. I get it. Everything's going up. Everything in this world, fuel, groceries, utilities, taxes, everything's going up except for my paycheck. And I'm sure I'm saying that for every citizen in the town of Hope Mills. But I'm one vote on the board. The citizens can throw daggers at me. People can throw daggers at me, but we got to pay the employees we got. We got to do something to bring that pay study up to 100%, because now that pay study's 2 years old.
I think 3.
Okay,
and
now
it expires in a few.
now that pay study's 3 years old, and we only implemented a quarter of it. So where's the other 3/4 of it going to come from? You know, and we're talking about taking away little things like showing them an appreciation luncheon. We're talking about taking that money away from them. So if we're not gonna pay them and we're gonna slap them in the face and not give them something, where are we at? And I got off on the soapbox, and I apologize, Chief. I'm sorry taking your time.
You
But
good.
I just feel like it's something that needs to be said, where we're at.
I appreciate it, Commissioner Marley. You're right. This budget does not have any funding to repay the 1.2 that the board agreed to put back in the general fund over a certain period of time. This budget does not have any funding for that 1.2 million. Chief, continue on. Or anybody else got any Commissioner Trimmel.
The quiet one. The quiet one. I just want to get clarification on the pay study if I could. I hear about it all the time, but there was something that you told us not too long ago that the pay study included Fayetteville. Am I correct?
Ultimately, what a pay study is you have to look at, they say the 10 closest municipalities surrounding your municipality that is within a reasonable distance, maybe 45 minutes.
Right.
So if you're talking about Greensboro, nobody's going to live in Hope Mills, leave Hope Mills, and commute to Greensboro every day.
Right.
But they may commute to Sanford. They may commute to Aberdeen, Southern Pines, Red Springs, Lumberton. The difference with Fayetteville is right down the street, but they're the big brother. And so while they are within the area that we're talking about distance-wise, we'll never compete with Fayetteville salaries. And so that is kind of like the anomaly in the pay study, but they're included. I think it'd be impossible to do a pay study and not include Fayetteville, but I don't think Fayetteville is an apples-to-apples conversation in terms of the pay study. But the overall aspect of it is I think they may have a 4 to 5 year shelf life, the pay studies. This one, when it expires and has to be updated, it's going to be worse. And so the amount, and I'll put this in context, when we did the pay study 3 years ago, the amount we were behind, the amount it would have taken to fully fund it, that's why we only did 25%, because the amount was extremely high. I think what Commissioner Marley is saying is every aspect of how we're doing business is being pulled. If we're talking about fire, I think Commissioner Chief Kane will tell you in the year 2000, there's a report that was done that outlined where we need to put substations. And I think it expired in 2015, and it said that I think we needed to have 3 substations by 2015. It is 2026, and we hadn't done any of them. So what's going to happen is salary-wise, staff-wise, need-wise, we're getting squeezed at every angle, and we're running out of ways to balance these budgets without using the word taxes. Now, how much, that is up to the board. I do think like I said, we're running out of ways to balance this or to skin this in alternative ways. We have an alternative way of funding projects through the grants. That's getting squeezed. We're looking at a lot of different ways, and eventually we're going to get to a point where we don't have any other option.
Okay. I understand that. But with Fayetteville included, does that skew the results of the pay study? Does it make it go higher than what this town can afford? Is what I'm saying.
I don't think it would skew it if you're talking about 9 additional other municipalities in it. If you're only talking about 1 or 2, I think it would skew it tremendously. But the fact that you have about 9 other municipalities in the pay study, I don't think it skews it to the point where it makes the numbers invalid. But HR can kind of, if you want to.
Well, I was going to wait until Chief was done and then bring her up before Police Chief comes up.
But one quick thing, and
I was just going to wait and bring her up.
not to beat a dead horse, but there's the newspaper article. And up there, the little highlighted section is May 9th, 2000. And that's a newspaper article from WRAL News, where it's talking about 5 stations within 15 years.
And here it is, 26 years. Going on 27. All right. Any other questions?
But the statement.
Mr. Mitchell?
Commissioner Marley is correct, and I am guilty as a former commissioner for not voting for a tax increase as well. Now, how did we get here? 10, 12, 15 years this town went without increasing taxes. We found ourselves in a bucket with nothing in it. Last year, there was a tax explosion, and this town and many other municipalities got hit hard. And unfortunately, that put everyone in a bad situation, left everybody with a bad taste in their mouth for taxes. And I can tell y'all, I know seniors right now, they are scared. They're petrified that they're not going to be able to keep their houses. They really are. And they're really struggling here. And we have, unfortunately, if we do not find some way to generate revenue, we are going to fall further and further in a hole where we will not be able to support anything. Service is going to dwindle. The firefighters, the police department, and other services, PWC, would not be able to meet demand unless we begin to release or let staff go. So tough decisions have to be made by not just us up here, but our citizens as well. We got to have these hard conversations. We got to have these hard topics, and the citizens, we have to we take everything in consideration. But we really got to have some hard discussions here in the very near future how we're going to move forward. If not, we're going to fall in a rabbit hole and we're not going to be able to get out of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Hamilton?
I was going to kind of go back on what Commissioner Tremmel said. When I was with the mayor here and Mayor Pro Tem in Wilmington, I believe it was there that they said that doing a pay study is probably the worst thing you can do, because it does combine all of the different communities. And I don't know if they take an average or how they base that on what we should be paying. And they kind of insinuated that it should go by our land mass and how many citizens that we have in the town, instead of based off of what Fayetteville or other communities have. So that was kind of where I was going to go with that. And I agree that we do need to do something, as Commissioner Mitchell and Marley said. And it's been a long time since we've done that. But I think what we should have been focusing on as well was the projects that we have going on. I'm not sure that we're following priorities. Our streets need repaired rather than Lake Park. And I know Lake Park is important. I know some of the projects are important, but we have to look at the priorities. I'm not sure that we're doing that. So we're spending our money on things that beautify the town, but my opinion is we're not spending the money on the things that we need to improve the town. People drive over potholes in the streets. They patch them, and it's not that Public Works isn't doing their job. They're patching them, but it doesn't last, and it comes right back up. So we have a lot of things going on that probably should be fixed before we'd end up beautifying the town. And that's one of the things that I'm hearing from citizens.
Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Marley?
I appreciate her bringing that point up, because in that email that the manager read in the record, if I'm not mistaken, it says that we took Powell bill money, which is money used for street maintenance, to fund salaries and stuff for the Public Works Department. Not only did we take Powell bill money, we took stormwater money.
That is correct.
To fund the salaries for the street department. So what we're doing is money that we should be using to repair the streets, the potholes, and everything that everybody wants. Here again, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're taking that money that should be used on streets to pay salaries with.
And Commissioner Marley, here's the reset. Over the last 4 years, if Don was here, he'd probably throw something at me. But we had initially gotten 4 employees out of Powell bill down to 1 last budget year. We're back up to 3 in Powell bill and 2 in stormwater.
It's just another example of like Commissioner Mitchell said, if we keep going down this rabbit hole, and I'll have to apologize to the citizens because I've been on this board for a number of years, and I voted not to raise taxes just like the rest of them. because we were trying to do what the citizens wanted us to do. And the citizens came in here and told us not to raise taxes, and that's what we did. We didn't raise taxes, but we put this town in a hole. And I'll take the blame for that. Like I said, people can throw daggers at me, but, and I'm not talking about, you know, we got to sit up here and raise taxes through the roof, but we're going to have to start making some small incremental increases. I mean, if nothing else, but for operational costs that have gone up, fuel, utilities, you know, just like everything else at the house. Well, here it goes up as well, you know, so I'm glad you brought that point up about the roads and stuff, and that goes back to that email where we're, you know, taking monies from other line items like we talked about earlier, you know, intermingling departments, and I think the finance director said she wants to get away from that as well, you know, intermingling budgets and stuff, so, but yeah, I thank you.
Mayor, I just have one more thing.
Okay, Commissioner Hamilton?
I kind of feel in a way like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, you know. We can't have it both ways. We either prioritize what we're going to do as far as projects and or streets, and we take care of all that. If it even comes down to staffing, those are the things we need to do. And I feel that we kind of should wait until we get to the end of this and see where we're at before we do anything as far as raising taxes or cutting anymore. I don't know that it's going to help us if we start doing a lot of cutting right now. Like I said, I think we need to wait and see where we're at as far as taxes, staffing, projects. But that's my recommendation, is slow down on the projects and get the town where it needs to be. And then later on, I think we can always pick back up on projects. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Leanne?
I might need your help to answer on this a
This
little
will
bit.
be for,
I have the PACE study.
this will be to
from-
answer Commissioner Trimmel's
Yes, kind of going back to
earlier
you.
question.
Okay. So you raise a valid question asking about, you know, are we comparing ourselves to Fayetteville? When they do a compensation study, they may look at that because the first thing they look at is, would an employee leave here to go work there? Are they within a commutable distance, which is what town manager said. But they also look at size and they look at revenue. So while they may be included in that list, there's weight to which ones are closer to us versus which ones are not. That makes sense. Okay, so it is included is because it is a potential factor for our employees. They could easily leave and move and work at Fayetteville. But I will tell you, in speaking with our employees, majority of our employees understand they're not going to make Fayetteville money, and they don't want to leave here to go to Fayetteville to make that money. They just want a little bit more help. So I was sitting here on my phone looking up, because I have the PACE study. The full recommendation of the PACE study from 2024 to get everybody to the correct PACE scales based on what our current pay scales are. So we increased our pay scales, but we didn't increase everyone's pay to meet the pay scales, if that makes sense. Okay. Was $961,316. Obviously, that's a lot, right? You're not going to do that in 1 year. So part of the recommendations from the service that provided us the pay study recommended we do $621,000, which would have been a 4.9% or a 4.9 cent tax increase at the time. I don't understand the value of a cent thing. That's a finance question. So I don't know what that would equate to now. But what I can say is we did $124,000 of that. Yeah. So what I'm seeing in the 2 years that I've been here, the staff that are leaving for pay, they're making less than they should, so they're leaving, but we're hiring back people with less experience at higher rates because we're paying them. So while I understand it's a lot of money, and I understand that it's going to have to take time over the next couple years, in the long run, it's going to save us money because we're going to keep that talent, we're going to keep that experience here instead of having to start from scratch and hire newer employees with less experience for more money. I hope I explained that.
It did, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
You good? Thank you, Leanne. This might be a good time to ask this question. I should have asked it earlier before we started. And this may go to Brittany. I think the 1 cent amount is $2.09. Is that correct? 209,000? Is that pretty much where this is? I saw in
Typically, the amount we would using is right at about 200, a little bit more. So I would say maybe if you wanted to say a little bit between 200 and 209, but right around that 200,000 is the value of a penny.
Okay.
As it relates to a tax.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure because I saw, in the very beginning of the budget where it was estimated at 209. I know that was an earlier question I had in an email I didn't get a response to, but I wanted to make sure that that's what we're working with. When we look at a property tax rate, that the penny will be bringing in somewhere between 200 and 209,000 percent.
Now, Mayor, one thing we're tracking too is with the growth, that penny's value will increase. And so a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, it may not be at 209. Hopefully it'll be at 300. And so what that means is if there is a desire for a future tax increase, it may require less of an increase because the value of that penny, that's where you're trying to get people to understand why we need the growth. There is the ability of our value to increase that would indirectly lower the amount you would have to do a tax increase, but that's offset because of the growth. If you don't have any growth, that value is not going to increase either.
No growth, and it continues to less. So, as I often hear from other municipalities, they wish they had the amount of growth that we're having in Hope Mills. I hear that so much. Anyway, so that's kind of a point I wanted to bring out. Chief, you're next, and I think you're last. All right, Chief, you got the biggest slice of the budget.
Well, and if I can, I want to start from Mr. Marley. Thank you. You kind of got my opening statement for me with whatever you said with the taxes and everything. There's a lot of the issues that I was going to bring up. Ms. Tremmel, I was part of the committee that was on that pay study originally, and met with the person. And some of the other issues we're having with the study is not only, as Mr. Marley said, did we only implement about 25% of it, but we didn't have a lot for pay compression. So we only allow COLA to take our people through the stages, if you would. So if we hire somebody from another agency at 10 years, they're conceivably starting at more money than somebody that's been here for 10 years. So it makes it difficult to try to balance that out, which has been a delicate balance for us as well. So we understand the financial constraints and that the board's facing. We've cut we've decimated our budget. But to speak to Ms. Tremmel again, the reason why we have to consider Fayetteville is right now every one of our officers can walk out the door and go over there and make $30,000 more. And we have some that have already applied. We also have some that are looking to go to the DEA federally and do the same thing. So, which brings me to something I'll address later, which is our task force officers. As Leanne said, most of our people do not want to leave here. And we can use other things to keep them here, morale, team building, all of that stuff, that might make up for a few $1,000s. But when you're talking $30,000, there's not much you're going to be able to do to keep those folks there. So we decimated our budget. I think we cut $29,000 out of our training budget, which is only giving our officers bare minimum, which could be, an issue in the future. We're not asking for any new positions, although since I've been here, first thing I did when I got here was we did ask, but cut them out, was doing an initial assessment. Spoke to the finance director at the time, as well as the public works director, anticipated the growth with the projects that had already been approved and were already under construction. targets coming, so it was my job to try to give you an estimate of how many folks you should add to the department each year to keep up with that growth in order to keep the community safe, which I've done. Understand the financial constraints. We can't add any new positions, but we're the only agency in the town. The fire department has a frozen position for 7 years, but we're the only agency in the town right now where if somebody does leave to go to one of those other agencies, we're going to freeze 5 positions. And I'm telling you, that's going to jeopardize public safety. Right now, out of the 59, you figure 6 of those officers are assigned to as school resource officers, primarily assigned to those schools. So now that's down to 53, and that's not a whole lot when we're tasked with conducting follow-up investigations, trying to keep up with the growth. So to not replace officers if they leave is going to really put us behind the 8 ball. And once they start leaving, I'm telling you, we're never going to get them back. When I took over, we had a 23% vacancy rate in 2022 and worked very hard to fill that vacancy rate. Grew with the school resource officers and having to provide crime scene officers once the sheriff's office stopped providing that service to us. So we're at 59. Like I said, 6 of those are SROs, and if we start to lose them to Fayetteville or someplace else, we're not going to get them back, and you're going to see a snowball effect where more and more people leave. We cut out their overtime so they don't make any money to cover shifts anymore. It's all comp time, where other agencies offer overtime, and I understand the reason behind that. I'm not saying it's a bad decision. I'm just saying it's something we're contesting with. The take-home car program, to show what other agencies are doing to try to retain their folks. Right now, we have a 30-mile limit to take home a vehicle. Fayetteville extended that to 50 miles to attract more people to come to their department. So these are all things that we're fighting against to retain the good, talented group of people that we have, the men and women here that are so dedicated to the town of Hope Mills. So, and I understand and I agree with Ms. Trumbull, we can't compete with Fayetteville. We can't pay them the same amount of money. We can't extend 50 miles. We can't do all of those things, sign-on bonuses that Fayetteville can do to retain and attract more employees. But to keep the ones that we have and making sure that we're not overworking them, and if somebody leaves, if we don't replace them, that's going to wear on those folks. They're going to have to cover more shifts. They're not getting paid to do that. It's comp time. More and more folks are going to leave if we don't replace vehicles that are damaged, and we don't have enough vehicles to provide take-home cars for our officers. More and more people are going to leave because of those reasons. So these are all things that are going to affect public safety in the future. One of the questions that the mayor, a couple of questions that the mayor sent through the town manager that required our response was with the task force officers. So right now, last year alone, our task force officers seized over $2,274,489, and that's just cash. That's not. They seized 5 houses, 11 vehicles, and a variety of other tons of narcotics, obviously. So out of that $2 million, we're going to get a significant portion of that brought back to the town. We have 2 of the most talented task force officers. One assigned to the DEA, and one assigned, 3 actually. We have a variety of task force officers, but 3 of the most talented are responsible for generating the most funds, that money for the town. One's assigned to the DEA. He's currently applied to Fayetteville, and we're going to lose him if we don't do something to keep him. And one's applied to the DEA, and we're going to lose him if we don't do something to keep him. And unlike if we lose a patrol officer, not downplaying that position, it's as important as a task force officer, but we can hire somebody out of BLED or from another department to fill that patrol officer spot. A task force officer position, and that's a really specified skill set. Those guys go out at 3 o'clock in the morning to put trackers on cars. They pull trash. I mean, they work tirelessly to do that. And in exchange, a financial benefit we get is that we benefit from the asset forfeiture thing. So since January 1st of 2025, the finance director here, and I know where the 200,000 came from. I think that also included 2024. But 2025 to present, including the budget amendment you just passed at the last meeting, we've spent over $130,000 in asset forfeiture to supply equipment for our department. That would have ordinarily had to come out of the general fund. I know we have another $50,000 check coming in the next 2 months that are gonna buy desktops that are no longer supported by Windows 10. So we have a priority list, including some bulletproof vests for our team. As well as, in addition to that money, we currently have 3 vehicles that we've seized from people that are in the parking lot that we got at no charge, and a 4th one on the way. So we'll have to use some of that asset forfeiture money to put lights and radios in, because obviously when we seized them, they didn't have that. So keeping those task force officers, and I know one of the questions you asked, Mayor, is if it's possible to reclassify that position into a different pay grade. And that would do well with keeping those 2 officers, because it's going to continue, they're going to continue to bring that money in. And I know right now we're probably owed, last check, money that I know we're owed, because we get a percentage due to our participation. It's around $800,000, $900,000. So eventually in the future, as that money starts to roll in, it's my goal to be able to come here and just say, hey, give me money to hire cops and maybe just some cars. We'll pay for all the training. We'll pay for all the equipment that we normally get budgeted through the general fund. But that's in the future as we start getting those checks. One case alone, we wrote about $600,000. That was that Operation Vape Trail. So we expect that, it takes a little while to get through the process, but as these checks come in, we're benefited by it. So I implore if we could do something to keep those 2 dedicated, they are really talented task force officers here within Hope Mills. That's going to be a financial benefit to the town for years to come, because they don't want to leave. It's strictly a financial decision for them to do so. Same thing with replacing vehicles and not freezing those 5 positions. We're going to be behind the 8 ball with the growth coming with Target and all of that. If somebody leaves, we need to replace them, because if not, that 5 is going to turn into 10, it's going to turn into 15, and we're never going to get those people back. I'm open for questions. There's not much more I can talk about in the
Mayor,
budget because we cut everything.
Mr. Marley?
Can the ones that are on that task force, can their salaries be paid out of that forfeiture money?
No, the salaries cannot be.
I wish they could, Commissioner Marley. I do. That was an early question I had. But because of the uniqueness of what they do, I do believe that the job description could reflect a different classification.
And what we're trying to do, sir, is to save, like, for argument's sake, if there was a potential, I don't know, $10,000 raise, say, we can use that asset forfeiture money to purchase equipment that we would normally get out of general fund. Not stuff that's normally budgeted, but stuff that we're going to need and would have to budget through the general fund to make up the difference for that salary increase. But no, we cannot pay their salary out of asset forfeiture.
But now overtime is paid by that agency.
Overtime is reimbursed by that agency, correct?
So what you're saying is help me word this. So what you're saying is we could use more drug forfeiture money for stuff that would come out of the general fund, and better slide that general fund money to salary.
I'm saying that's a suggestion that we could use, right?
So it equals out. So it equals out. We're not spending more at the general fund, or not general fund, but we're not spending more out of the budget for salaries. We're just kind of.
What you're doing is indirectly creating a pocket that you can use out of general fund, because you have equipment that you would normally purchase out of general fund, out of asset forfeiture. But in response to the email that you guys requested this morning, we are actually in the process, Chief and Brittany are working on an asset forfeiture policy. That there are a lot of questions that actually outline, or people ask, what can it be used for? So the policy will outline the use of asset forfeiture funds. It'll list the general things that you can spend those funds on. It does have specific portions about making sure you don't supplant the the budget through asset forfeiture, but it will cross-reference state and federal regulations to provide a bigger synopsis on what this money can be utilized for. And so I do think that will answer a lot of the questions.
And our policy is just gonna reflect, there's two types, right? Federal and state, and there's a distinction between the two. So federal government, they allow us, we get a portion of the money seized based on our, or assets seized, like a house or a car. If they sell them, we get a portion of that as well, based on the amount of our participation in the investigation. So if it's only ours, the federal government keeps 20% of it, we get 80% of it. But say Fayetteville and Cumberland County and a couple other agencies, then they would break down that remaining percentage, that 80%, it would break it down for each department based on the level of participation in the investigation. The state money is actually, it's taxable income, believe it or not. So they tax the amount of drugs that somebody has, and they assign a value to it. But yeah, it's I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy. And to the extent like if you have 50 pounds of marijuana, they would you might only pay a certain amount of taxes on it. But and then we get 75% of that. So that's different, and they're a little more liberal on what we can use state funding for. But you still can't pay salaries. But the federal government is pretty regulatory on what we can and can't use it for. But yes, we can, to answer your question, sir, we can, buy some equipment and maybe move that money into salary. The only consideration you have to have, and it's not an issue because we know we have this money coming in, it's not an issue right now, but what if we have a dry year, then, you'll have to.
That's what I was saying. I don't want to ask the wrong question. I don't want to.
No, yep.
And somebody stop me if I am, but so basically what you're saying is these three people, they make the town, or they bring in enough money to the town through drug forfeiture money to basically pay what they make.
10 times over.
5 people. I think it's 5, right?
Well, there's 5, but there's 5 task force officers, but 3 predominantly make the money. One's assigned to Fayetteville. They don't bring in a whole lot of money. It's more because everything's taken federally. And one's assigned to the Marshals Task Force, not to diminish what she does, but they just go out and lock up the people on warrants. So there's not a whole lot of money seizures. The money seizures.
But they are revenue neutral then.
Revenue neutral.
Plus.
Perfect way to say it. Yes, sir. Revenue neutral. Where the other ones generate, bring in a lot more asset forfeiture sharing. Correct.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Hi, Chief and Deputy Chief. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good, thank you.
Well, it depends.
Yeah, I get that. And as far as the asset forfeiture, I did ask that question quite a while ago, and the town attorney sent me a list of everything that you all were authorized to purchase with that money. It's not just anything like Commissioner Marley was asking about salaries. I know you can't do that. It's for training and different things like that. And
training, equipment,
right,
that kind of stuff.
And it's really saved the town money. Like you said, you didn't have to go through general fund when you want to purchase things. That asset forfeiture money was there to give us what we needed. So it really saved us a lot of money. And that's why I also think that just by keeping these guys, it's gonna really help the town. But what I really wanted to say, kind of like what Commissioner Marley said, it's probably not going to be very popular, but I just can't see freezing the police department positions. I think it would put the board in kind of a position. If something were to happen, domestic gone wrong, or something bad happened at the school, or a bad accident that they needed to be there, then guess what? It's the board's fault because we approved the cuts.
And can I just comment real quick? I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to comment on SROs. So it's no secret when it was originally brought up that I recommended that the town not do SROs. That was my original report to Chancellor when he said, where do we stand with this? And I broke it down financially. I broke it down, all of the liabilities, all the things we need to do it. So I originally recommended that we didn't do it. But now that we have it, we're kind of married to it.
Right,
And,
then also with the server too, that wasn't your fault.
the server as well, the server,
That was
when,
forced on us by the,
over the SRO, when the SRO, situation occurred, the sheriff's office stopped providing us a server service. We weren't able to use their server, which required the town to go and purchase one, which was mentioned in the audit. But now that we have those SROs, I'll say this, we've developed an awesome relationship with the school community. The benefits we're reaping are, not just with the children, with the staff and the parents are great. The school covers all costs, salary, benefits, and equipment for all of those officers. So we pay zero, the town pays zero for that. And in fact, they actually, it was supposed to be phased where they'd pay 100% one year, then 75% the next year, but they've agreed to continue paying 100%, not just for those officers, but for our traffic control officers as well. And they provide everybody with an initial complete set of uniforms and a gun and everything, which comes to about $3,000. So it doesn't cost us anything to maintain those officers. The only thing it costs us is vehicles. And that was never going to be reimbursed by the school district. They don't do it for the sheriffs, and they don't do it for Fayetteville. But now that we have the vehicles, where you know, it's a cost that we have anyway. So
well, the other part of what I wanted to say was if we increase taxes and we don't cut in other departments and we're just cutting in the police department or the fire department or whichever, the public safety, then the board's at fault again. And I don't think we need to do that as far as morale goes. They're going to say, well, you cut the police department, you cut us. What happened to the rest of the town? So I don't want to.
you have tough decisions to make.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Any way we look at it, it's going to be on the board. It's going to be our fault for whatever happens.
And you know, it's not just something where I come up like, I think I need 4 officers next year. It's not how we predict our manpower. I mean, went to class, there's formulas that we use to break down based on the estimated growth in population, geography, commercial growth, how many officers we're going to need to effectively provide adequate service to the town. So it's not just something I guess at, it's done all mathematically and by a system. And with the growth, like I anticipate Target, with the amount of shoplifting calls we get, we're going to be here every day on shoplifting calls.
Target has the best security system in the world.
Well, it might help us catch them, but they still, I mean, we had a super Target where I came from, and it didn't cut down on the shopliftings. They just had great cameras and great, but we, you know, just our call volume alone, just for that, is going to increase.
Well, my opinion is I think the mayor had a good idea that we can change the position description on that just to keep the revenue and keep these guys here if they're doing a fantastic job, and I think that they are. And that would be my suggestion.
They are 2 of the most talented that I've worked with.
That's what you said.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Tremmel?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Just want to say about the salaries, I understand about people coming in new, making what people, long time, I worked in an organization that happened, the bank I worked in. I was a supervisor, brand new tellers were coming in making what I was. So I understand that, and I know we have, excuse my voice, heavy decisions to make here. But I can't see freezing officers for you. We have to do something that we don't do that. I have a question to ask you. What is your turnover rate right now?
We haven't had turnover. We used to have a turnover problem. We don't have it now. Anybody that's leaving is because, well, now with the pay, they're going to leave because of pay. Yeah. And those officers definitely don't want to leave. But the only ones we've lost recently or thinking about leaving were we have a lot of military folks. So they're, you know, if their husband or their wife gets transferred, they move. Yeah, we don't transport them, but yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, teleported, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't see.
Deployed.
There, yeah.
The mayor, and all those other acronyms.
Yeah, the mayor made a statement at our last meeting that our North Star is public safety. And if that is the truth, okay then, I can't see us cutting or freezing 5 positions for you. We have to make some hard decisions. That's my opinion on the matter.
And also vehicles.
Okay. Commissioner Marley?
I think Grilly was first.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't
I'll
know.
be last.
I don't know
need
which,
to-
I'm
yeah.
looking,
Okay,
I'm
so,
looking down this way and I'll come back.
so.
Yeah, I'm
so-
good.
You good?
I'm good,
so
just
wait-
don't
Mayor
care.
Pro Tem will be
You
next.
said something about frozen positions, so do you have any that are frozen right now?
No, sir.
But what you said was as officers leave.
If
you're
somebody
freezing
leaves,
those
correct.
positions.
So if nobody leaves, they're funded, but if somebody leaves, then, the way I understand it,
What we did is, in order to get creative, balancing this budget, we froze 5 police positions in PD. What that means is, if he loses 5 officers, those officers cannot be replaced. It's like with the mechanism that frees a position in fire. It's not something I recommend at all. But again, we're having to find as many alternative ways to balance the budget as we humanly can. And so if he loses his top 2 guys in the task force, you're not going to just elevate up 2 more people on the force to be able to do what they're doing. But if he did do that, the positions that would be vacated at a lower level cannot be replaced.
and it brings up a good point. So at the end of the day, my main priority is having officers to respond to 911 calls, right? So if somebody calls the police, we have to have somebody to send. So if we lose 5 officers, then I'm gonna have to pull people out of the task force officer positions, or out of detectives, or out of any other, community policing with all the community events we do, and we're gonna have to put them back on the road. And those things, the task force officer program will be depleted. And the thing with those programs are, there's not a lot of vacancies. Every regional office only gets so many task force officer positions, and we've been fortunate enough to wait a few years to get one for each of those federal agencies. Now, if we have to give it up, I couldn't say when we would get a chance to put one back there. They would give it to another, they might get allotted 5 from, this area, and they'll give it to another department, and then we'd have to wait potentially for them to give one up. And once you get it, it's like a golden ticket. Nobody wants to give it up.
Another question, is there any lap salaries in your department right now that could fund, reclassification for the rest of this budget year?
No, sir, because
Or
we're
moving forward?
we're full.
Do what now?
The only
fully
vacancy
staffed,
we
so there's no
have in
lap
the whole
services.
town is the one in fire. We don't have any other vacancies.
What I'm saying is there any lap salary money?
No, sir, because
Because
we're
you're
at full.
fully staffed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Full staff.
So there's none that's been vacant,
Yeah,
right?
so I was just curious if there might have been some of that money left over in salaries.
I get it, yeah. But no, yeah, we're at full.
Just trying to be creative.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Marley, if we were looking at reclass, which I put in my email, earlier about that, as a way to address these folks leaving, Chief, it's hypothetical, of course, but would they stay if there was an opportunity of reclass?
Yeah, I gotta tell you,
I mean, I don't know. I don't.
I'm gonna call Brittany. 'Cause
I wouldn't
to be honest,
know
I
the
forgot your
answer,
last
but-
name, but they would stay, and Brittany was great. I mean, we met with Brittany, the other day, as a command staff to go over some things, and then we asked her for some figures today, and she gave us a whole spreadsheet, to do that. Yeah, and it's not like, I think currently they're in, position 19. We'd only have to bring them up to position 20. It's not like we gotta jump them to 23 or 24.
What kind of, and here's what I don't, and I've said this before too, and I understand I'm all for it, but what I don't wanna do
That's right.
is create a problem for you and your department for morale by giving 2 or 3 individuals an increase, although I see the need for it, but once that word gets out, and it's already out, because people are watching it right now,
And I
and
understand.
I've always been for this right here too. If we give one to one department, we need to do it.
And I understand what you're saying. This would be no different though, like if somebody wanted to promote the sergeant, they would jump up to pay grade 23, I think it is.
Let's see.
But they'd have to wait for a vacancy to come up, and then
So what
they
you're saying,
apply.
you don't feel like this would cause a morale problem within your department?
Well, this would be no different than having a sergeant or lieutenant's vacancy come up.
Because and I'll say this, I work for local government, and I'm I'm for the employees, you know what I'm saying? And like I said
Me
before,
too, I was in a union. for
I'm a
most of my
services
career.
guy. I'll even go so far as tell you this, you know, and it wasn't fair to the fire chief. I'll back up for just a minute if you don't mind, if you give me a minute. Just like with that position at the fire department, that's frozen, you know, the fire departments are rated by the insurance industry. So right now we're a 2, and that keeps, well, anything really below a 6 doesn't help the homeowner, but it gives the taxpayers in the town the lowest insurance rate that you pay. Homeowners insurance, premiums and stuff, it keeps that down. A 6 is the best you can do for a homeowner. Anything below a 6 helps attract commercial. And commercial is where we get our highest tax dollar return for commercial. So we have a good advertisement out there for economic development. Chancellor's good on that. He can tell you about that too. So I also see the need with the fire department too for that frozen position he has, because we need to keep that ISO rating a 2. We definitely don't need that to go up.
One more comment about the morale. A lot of officers don't want, this position is, they're gone constantly.
Yeah.
Like, they're gone constantly.
Well, I mean, I understand. I'm not
saying, so
downplaying
it's a
it
high
or
different work.
not trying to find a way to
I think we'd be able to
discredit it.
manage that.
But I'm looking out for you and your department. I'm looking out for every officer, every employee in this town.
And we've talked about that extensively.
Just another, something to consider when we talk about potentially freezing positions, natural disasters and riots. I mean, if we have a natural disaster here or a riot, we're gonna need every officer that's standing. So that's another consideration for you.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead. Wait a minute, Commissioner Marley, are you done?
A hurricane or something?
Yeah, I thank you for your time. I'm sorry
No,
I
no,
took up so much time.
No, I just want to make sure you were good. Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes, sir.
Even though they say they will stay, I can tell you this much, because I've worked with folks in high demand positions. That was in high demand. Once they got the pay raise, somebody come along and offer more if they're in high demand. There's no guarantee they're gonna stay. So you have to keep that in mind as well. So you can still find yourself in the same predicament. Because when you high demand like that, trust me, I was a dollar chaser. The one that paid, I played.
And I've seen that. We have had officers jump ship to go someplace else, you know, throughout my experience here in North Carolina for $2,000 extra. This isn't, and I understand what you're saying, that this isn't that case, but even if they left, we're still not behind, and then as long as we can replace them. But these 2 officers don't want to go. I mean, they grew up here. They don't want to go. They live here. They want to stay here. And I think Leanne had discussions with both of them as well. But you're right. They can always make that assertion and then, turn around and leave if they wanted to.
Last statement, sir. All right. Now, based on the conversation we had up here, and based on the probability of being able to bump up a grade with some smart business practices, with money, I want to make sure I use the right word, availability. Let's use for funding availability. I think we need to go and look at that possibility, see where we can make it work and make it fit, if that possibility do exist. That's all, man.
Mayor, is that something that finance can bring back at the 18th?
I was going to suggest that. I was just waiting on all of you guys to finish your questions, and because I got that, and I got another thing that I was going to ask Brittany, but Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So you kind of threw me off when you said that if your officers leave, that 5 positions would be frozen?
That's what I'm being told.
They're frozen, meaning that
We won't replace them.
if they leave, they can't replace. Now, if a 6th person left, then they can replace that one, but they'd be stuck with 5 positions that they can't replace.
But why would that be if are the positions currently in the budget?
It's a good question. No, that's a good question. So if nobody leaves, you have the money to fund them.
But no, what I'm saying.
Correct. Yeah.
If the positions are currently in the budget already, and even if if I were to go, why would that freeze a position if you've already budgeted for it?
I think that's a Brittany question.
I agree.
You're saving money. You're saving money because
Brittany,
you're not
come on
filling
up,
the
because
position back.
I got a couple questions too.
So what the budget was balanced off the anticipation that with these 5 frozen positions, that if someone was to leave, they wouldn't fill it. Meaning that we would include what Mr. Marley said was lapsed salaries. However, we won't receive those lapsed salaries if those officers do not leave those positions.
So there'd be no savings.
So there would be no savings.
So my question is, what we're looking at right now, the hypothetical 5 officers, are they in this budget?
Yes.
So then that goes back to my original question of, if I leave, I've already been budgeted for, why can't we put Commissioner Trammell in my spot?
Because it will eat up that cost underrun that we're expecting to collect that help balance this budget. So the flip side is the officers not leaving, yes, the budget is balanced, but there could be at June 30 of next year, some type of shortfall, if that makes sense.
No, I'm sorry, it doesn't. I'm just trying to.
Well, it's not really clean money. It's not cash for cash, if that makes sense.
We're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Basically.
So what they're doing is saying, like, if the, so the way I gather, if they leave, those positions are frozen, that lapsed salary money goes back
To the general fund.
the general fund to cover the shortfall this year on the budget. So that's, they're gonna use that money to help balance this budget.
It
So
was,
it's like a gamble right now, it's a gamble.
it was based off anticipation, yes, ma'am.
But once again, we're in the situation, I keep saying it, beating a dead horse, but we're robbing here, we're robbing ourselves.
All right, 2 questions. First one, if we're freezing 5 positions, are we freezing 5 cars?
Okay.
We took, we asked for cars, and we took them out already, so.
So, no, where I'm going is if a car needs to be replaced.
Well, if a car gets crashed and we need to replace it, then we need to replace it. But we're not
So
getting any new
positions are
cars.
only positions, no
We're
cars.
not getting any new cars.
And then I got a broader
Am I
question.
talking right? Am I not saying something right?
You're not getting rid of 5 cars by freezing positions because those are leased. So that's a different conversation. I will say that Brittany and Chief and I are talking about trying to look at that leasing program to figure out ways to.
Lease or purchase any new vehicles in this budget. We took them out. But if one got crashed, we would hope to replace it because we would need it for the officers that we currently have.
Okay. The follow-up, Brittany, this will be to you and Chancellor. Now that we're learning that there are 5 frozen positions in the police department, potentially, are there any other frozen positions in other departments besides the police and fire
No.
in this
We
budget?
don't have any, that was the only ones that were.
Those are the only ones. And typically, from my understanding with finance, you have more turnover, and it's not fair to police, but you have more turnover in that department, so you can yield enough more savings. That's why you typically see frozen positions in fire and police.
So, this will come back to my original comment. If our North Star is public safety, community policing, why are we freezing positions? I
think because
we
of the
will
budget.
answer that, the board will
Yes,
answer
sir.
that question with this.
Oh,
budget.
okay. yeah.
But you see where I'm talking about. I mean, the ROI on the community policing just with the SRO program
Yeah.
has been a tremendous gem to our community to have that relationship in the schools. It really has. And Deputy Chief, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
And I just want to be clear, and from conversations with the town manager and Drew before he left, I don't think anybody wants to freeze the positions. It's just that with the mandates of the shortfall of the budget, I mean, that's,
I'll even
the best
add
thing they
that,
came up.
at City Vision, I attended a 2-hour session talking about the, current bill in Raleigh to possibly contemplate putting caps on property tax increases. One of the things that is slowing down that bill is because there's not a way to do an apples to apples mandate, because a cent here is different from a cent in Fayetteville, it's different from a cent in Cary. But there's two words that are this appearing to back everybody off: public safety. Because when you start limiting the amount that cities can increase their taxes, the thought process is that you're indirectly limiting funding that could go towards public safety. So I do know that that's what they indicated to us as one of the main things that may be slowing down or minimum on that, because there are concerns with limiting funds for public safety.
Yeah, and I didn't want to come across, and I don't think I did, but I don't want to come across like they're excited about doing this, but they have no alternative.
No,
I mean,
no,
through
we're in the
Chancellor
budget
is
workshop.
forced
This is
to
the
bu- yeah,
time. This is the time.
Yeah, but I just want
Put
to
it
be
on the
clear.
table.
I've had discussions with the town manager and Drew prior to them leaving. It's nothing that they want to do. It's just that with the circumstances, and they're told you got to make up from shortfall. They got to do what they got to do. But
While we're in the budget workshops.
Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mitchell's next.
Oh, okay.
Okay. One other question.
who?
SROs,
Yes, sir.
is a car required for every SRO?
Yes, sir.
To include the one right across the street here at, Rockfish?
Yeah, because he just doesn't cover Rockfish. He covers another elementary school as well. There's one at the high school, one at each middle school, and then each officer has 2 elementary schools. And you know, I want to bring up another benefit of the SRO program. Although the schools are paying for their salaries and they're primarily assigned to the schools, they're free workers during the summer. You know, so we get a big benefit out of that. We don't take over the salaries in the summer. We still train them. They handle summer school and stuff like that. This year they're doing a big school program for those kids, the cop out, not drop out program. But the schools are still paying their salaries. So, and they're very good with us. They're very amenable to if we have some sort of you know, big event or some big, you know, incident or something like that. They have no problem with their SROs coming to help out on that, and they're still covering their salaries. So that's the great relationship we have with the school district as well.
And I think we need to do more explaining the big picture, because the citizens don't get the big picture, and that's what you hear. Well, why are you paying $277 for those cars? I mean, I ask the same question because but when it's been expanded upon the definition of what they all do like that, and then you're getting,
And I can comment on that lease program a little bit for you.
Please.
So, you know, the condition of the fleet was in such disrepair, in 2 years or so ago, 75% of our vehicles in the fleet had over 150,000 miles, 75%. We were spending money just to keep old cars on the road. When we expanded and with the lease program, we should have started to see more benefits. So the way, it's not a traditional lease program where you can turn the car back in and then you don't have to pay anymore. At the end of the lease, when the vehicle's paid off, we have 2 options. So Enterprise does a good job. We can just say, hey, you know what, we're going to keep it. And then we keep it for, you know, in perpetuity if we need to. But Enterprise will call us and say, hey, this is a good time to sell that vehicle. You'll get the most equity out of it. And you can sell the vehicle and put that equity back into the program where it's starting to support itself a little bit. But that 1 year where we had to add 12 cars at one time because of the SROs, as well as and what people don't know is when the sheriff's office stopped providing crime scene services to us, we had to get our own crime scene officers. So we had to get two extra vehicles for there. So that 1 year set us back a few years of seeing the advantages of equity. Thank you, equity, deployment and equity. I'll remember both of those. But so that set us back a few years to start seeing that equity return, and eventually we're going to see that.
See a reduction in costs eventually.
Yes, sir. And the other thing is, right now, I think our average cost of a lease is with equipment is about $18,000 a year. If we had to purchase a vehicle outright and put that equipment in, you're talking $75,000, $80,000 a car, after the expense of the car. So there's no way we'd be able to replace the amount of vehicles that we needed to get the fleet operational like we have. So it's an advantageous program.
Explain it to me, because I was adamant, I'm not, you know. Tell me.
And I think a lot of people don't understand it until they ask.
Well, that's why I went back over it again tonight with the audit report.
Mayor, can I add something?
Commissioner Hamilton's next, and then I'll come back.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just have a question. I know you had mentioned a lot of your officers are military. Do you have any indication how many are going to be, like you said, teleported or PCS or
Deployed? No.
deployed, or there's a lot of different.
No, I mean, and things change, and now with this, the war in the Middle East, we had one officer that was supposed to be leaving in June to go to Colorado. Those orders got canceled indefinitely, so it's.
But what concerns me, if someone is deployed, that means normally they're coming back. So I don't think just because they're.
No, this isn't deployed where they're just gone for 6 months. This is reassigned or something.
PCS.
PCS.
Right,
PCS, yeah.
It rotates another.
Yes, ma'am.
There's
This
certain
is,
times
this
a
is
year
when
that
the whole
military
family's
rotates.
moving, and that's where their
Right.
new base
There's
is gonna
certain
be.
times of the year most military families rotate.
Yeah.
So that was my question.
There's nobody that's currently brought
I
that.
was wondering if they're deployed, that means they're coming back, so.
No, I used the wrong, I'm an idiot.
My
I
question
don't know
was,
the words.
if they leave for deployment, that doesn't count as, because they're coming back.
Oh, correct, you're right.
Okay.
No, this is people that are PCSing.
Right,
I
okay,
guess.
so nobody that you know of is leaving right now.
No, sir, the last one just told us that her husband's orders got canceled, and he's not going to Colorado, and he's gonna be here for years.
Sometimes they get orders and you gotta go, I mean,
Yeah. But there's nothing on the horizon right now.
great, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Marley?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make one comment to the board just for clarification, so they'll know. And what the police chief said, this goes back to our budget last year and the talk about the taxes, just for everybody to know. So all the positions he mentioned about the SRO program, the cars, the ID techs, their cars, everything, all that goes back to the hard decisions we had to make last year to take over this program for the safety of the community and everything. So with that, the manager, finance director last year proposed a 48 or 49 cent tax rate, which this board, at the request of the citizens, brought it back down to 45 cents. You know, if we'd have went with the recommended tax rate, you know, we wouldn't really be in this.
Clarification, 51 was brought down to 48. It's currently
51,
48.
okay, yeah, we were at 51, it was brought down to 48, and then we decided, the board at that time, cut it again to 45. And, you know, that's where we had to go into the fund balance, as the mayor mentioned at the last meeting, to balance that budget to cover those costs. So that's how we got here. Just to let everybody a little background.
But it was the right decision.
Oh, yeah, it was the right decision.
It was the right decision for our.
And we get nothing but compliments from all of the school personnel about the services we're providing to the school community. They're thrilled about it, so it was a good decision. And, you know, even our crime scene officers, like, you know, we had that homicide a week or so ago. They did all the processing. I mean, they're soup to nuts from A to Z. They can do everything right here, so we're very self-efficient.
Okay. Anybody else? It's,
So what we're gonna do, where we at? They're gonna.
it's 8:18. I think we're to the end. Police department was the last one. So, anybody else got anything? If not, we will come back at 5:30 on May 18th. And let me see, who's the lineup on? Let me, hang on, let me find my list.
That's planning, code enforcement, Parks and Rec, Public Works, and Stormwater.
Okay, so,
And Mayor, before you continue, I would say that any of the questions or clarifications that came up tonight, Brittany and I will get working on those and send you some emails over the rest of this week. As you look at the next budget cycle, if you have any questions, feel free to send them to them, and we'll do the same thing in terms of compiling the answers and making sure you have that information. Thank you.
And I will echo that because I sent my questions in earlier that go through the budget. If you have questions, send them in. The earlier that you send them in, the earlier that the staff can put an answer together like they did tonight. It was really good, thorough. Don't want to ambush anybody, you know, when we get into May 18th. That's not why we're here. In that or chest pumping or anything like that, you know, because because Commissioner Marley is dead on right, just like last year when we were faced with a number of things that we had to do. We've got to get this one right. We've got to get it tight. We got to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. But we also have to be mindful, and I said this earlier, is that part of our policy change for next year is to reduce budget amendments. So the front end of this budget, and Brittany, this is going to be in your wheelhouse to look at this budget and anticipate that front end piece to navigate this budget. Then on the 18th, we'll go over these other departments. If the board feels comfortable on the 18th that we can go ahead and schedule a public hearing, that's what we will do. But I just wanted to make sure that, you know, it's going to take, actually it takes what, 15 days?
It's 10 days. If a date is approved, the initial date that we had discussed was June 1st. It can be any time between June 1st and June 30th, but just because that was the first date that was floated, I would need to have the advertisement in the paper by 9 a.m. on the 19th so that it would make the noticing requirements for June 1st if June 1st remains the pleasure of the board. Obviously, if it's later than that, then that gives me more time with the advertisement. But I reached out to them in advance just so you guys would know that if June 1st was still what you were expecting, the 19th at 9 a.m. would be the cutoff.
I don't want to rush this budget at all. Not at all. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because now we're looking at milestones. If on May 18th we need another workshop, that's what we'll do. We have the month of June. We're not going to be like the state, not adopt a budget. Don't get me, I'll behave. I'll behave there. But I want to make sure this one's right. And let's take the time to make it right. We've had a lot of discussion tonight with our big departments, our public safety, and now we're bringing in the other side of it too, which is public works, which is our street maintenance, our Parks and Rec program, which is continuing to grow, and code enforcement is in that, stormwater is in that. So we've got a lot of departments on May 18th as well. We may not get through them all before 7 o'clock. I may have to recess and come back afterwards. I don't know. But that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm hoping that the board looks at it in the same way.
Are we good?
Okay?
Motion.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Seeing none opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.